ವೇದಿಕೆ ಮೇಲೆ ಆಗಮಿಸಿದ ಎಲ್ಲ ಗಣ್ಯರಿಗೂ ಸಹ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು. ಸರ್ವರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ಪ್ರೀತಿಯ ಬಂಧುಗಳೇ, ಮೈಸೂರು ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾನಿಲಯದ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಬಿ.ಆರ್. ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ್ ಸಂಶೋಧನಾ ಹಾಗೂ ವಿಸ್ತರಣೆ ಕೇಂದ್ರವು ಸಾಂದರ್ಭಿಕ ಚರ್ಚಿತ ವಿಷಯಗಳನ್ನ ಕುರಿತಂತೆ ಅನೇಕ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಗಳನ್ನ ರೂಪಿಸುತ್ತಾ ಬಂದಿದೆ. ಹಾಗೆಯೇ ಇಂದು ಸಹ ಮೀಸಲಾತಿ ಮತ್ತು ವರ್ಗೀಕರಣ ಕುರಿತ ಕಾರ್ಯಾಗಾರವನ್ನು ಆಯೋಜಿಸಿರುವುದು ಆರೋಗ್ಯಕರ ಚರ್ಚೆಗೆ ಒಂದು ವಿಹಿತ ವಾತಾವರಣವನ್ನ ಕಲ್ಪಿಸುತ್ತದೆ ಎಂದು ಭಾವಿಸುತ್ತಾ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನ ಪ್ರಾರಂಭಿಸುವ ಮುಂಚೆ ನೀವೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಸಹ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗಮಿಸಲು ತಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಸಹ ಸ್ವಾಗತ ವಹಿಸುತ್ತಾ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನ ಪ್ರಾರಂಭಿಸುತ್ತಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದ ಮೊದಲಿಗೆ ಬುದ್ಧವಂದನೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕೆಂದು ನಮ್ಮ ಕೇಂದ್ರದ ಸಂಶೋಧನಾ ಸಹಾಯಕರಾಗಿರುವ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಗೋಪಾಲ್ ರವರನ್ನ ಆತ್ಮೀಯವಾಗಿ ವೇದಿಕೆ ಮೇಲೆ ಬರಮಾಡಿಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತಿದ್ದೇನೆ.
ವೇದಿಕೆ ಮೇಲೆ ಆಸೀನರಾಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಅತಿಥಿ ಗಣ್ಯರಿಗೆಲ್ಲ ನಮಸ್ಕರಿಸ್ತಾ, ವೇದಿಕೆ ಮುಂಬಾಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಎಲ್ಲ ಗಣ್ಯರಿಗೆ ನಮಸ್ಕರಿಸಿ, ಸಂಶೋಧಕರಿಗೆ, ಅಧ್ಯಾಪಕ ವರ್ಗದವರಿಗೆ ನಮಸ್ಕರಿಸ್ತಾ, ಬಂಧುಗಳೇ, ಒಂದು ವಿಶೇಷ ಸೂಚನೆ ಏನಪ್ಪಾ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ಇದೀಗ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ವೀಕ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರನ್ನು ಅಗಲಿದಂತಹ ಪತ್ರಿಕೋದ್ಯಮ ಮತ್ತು ಸಂವಹನ ವಿಭಾಗದ ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ ಆದಂತಹ ಮಹೇಶ್ ಚಂದ್ರ ಗುರು ಅವರಿಗೆ ಒಂದು 2 ನಿಮಿಷಗಳ ಕಾಲ ಮೌನಾಚರಣೆ ಆಚರಿಸಬೇಕಾಗಿ ತಾವೆಲ್ಲರನ್ನು ಕೇಳ್ಬೋದು. ಧನ್ಯವಾದ. ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದ ಮೊದಲಿಗೆ ಬಾಬಾ ಸಾಹೇಬ್ ಮತ್ತು ಬುದ್ಧನ ಕುರಿತಂತಹ ಗೀತೆಯನ್ನು ಪ್ರಸ್ತುತಪಡಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ. ಜ್ಞಾನಶೀಲ ಸ್ವಾಭಿಮಾನ ನನ್ನ ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ ಜ್ಞಾನಶೀಲ ಸ್ವಾಭಿಮಾನ ನನ್ನ ದೇವರ ಸುಂದರು ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ. ಜ್ಞಾನಶೀಲ ಸ್ವಾಭಿಮಾನ ನನ್ನ ದೇವರ ಸುಂದರು ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ. ಸುಗುಣಶೀಲ ಬುದ್ಧ ಮಾರ್ಗ ನನ್ನ ದೇವರೆಂದರು. ಸುಗುಣಶೀಲ ಬುದ್ಧ ಮಾರ್ಗ ನನ್ನ ದೇವರೆಂದರು. ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ 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 ಆಗದೆ ನದಿಯ ತಿಕ್ಕು ಬರಲು ಮಾಡೋ ಬಂಡೆಯಂತಾದೆ ನೀರಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಬರಲು ಮಣ್ಣಿದ್ದೆ ಆಗದೆ ನದಿಯ ತಿಕ್ಕು ಬರಲು ಮಾಡೋ ಬಂಡೆಯಂತಾದೆ ಇತಿಹಾಸವನ್ನು ಕೂರದೆ ಇತಿಹಾಸವನ್ನು ಕೂರದೆ ಇತಿಹಾಸ ಸೃಷ್ಟಿಸಿದೆ ಇತಿಹಾಸವೇ ನೀನಾದೆ ಇತಿಹಾಸವೇ ನೀನಾದೆ ಜ್ಞಾನಶೀಲ ಸ್ವಾಭಿಮಾನ ನನ್ನ ದೇವರು ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ ಮಳೆ ಹಾಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಜಯ ಮುಕ್ತ ಕೂಡಲಿ ಅಮರ ನೀನಾದೆ ಬಂದ ಮಳೆ ಹಾಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಹೆಜ್ಜೆಯ ಮುಕ್ತ ಕೂಡಲಿ ಅಮರ ನೀನಾದೆ ನಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರನ್ನು ಬೆಳೆಸಿದೆ ನಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರನ್ನು ಬೆಳೆಸಿದೆ ನಮ್ಮೊಡಲ ಉಸಿರಾದೆ ಬೆಳಕು ಅದೇ ಒಂದು ಬೆಳಕು ನೀನಾದೆ ಜ್ಞಾನಶೀಲ ಸ್ವಾಭಿಮಾನ ನನ್ನ ದೇವರ ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ 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 ಜ್ಞಾನಶೀಲ ಸ್ವಾಭಿಮಾನ ನನ್ನ ದೇವರ ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ 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 ಸುಗುಣಶೀಲ ಬುದ್ಧ ಮಾರ್ಗ ನನ್ನ ದೇವರು ಸುಗುಣಶೀಲ ಬುದ್ಧ ಮಾರ್ಗ ನನ್ನ ದೇವರು ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ 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 ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು.
ಬಹಳ ಅಚ್ಚುಕಟ್ಟಾಗಿ ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ್ ಹೇಳಿದಂತಹ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಗೋಪಾಲೇಶ್ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು. ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನು ಕುರಿತಂತೆ ಪ್ರಾಸ್ತಾವಿಕ ನುಡಿಗಳನ್ನಾಡುವುದರೊಂದಿಗೆ ಸ್ವಾಗತವನ್ನ ಬಯಸಬೇಕೆಂದು ನಮ್ಮ ಕೇಂದ್ರದ ನಿರ್ದೇಶಕರಾದ ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ ಜೆ ಸೋಮಶೇಖರ್ ಸರ್ ಅವರನ್ನ ಕೇಳ್ಕೊಳ್ತೀನಿ.
ಆತ್ಮೀಯರೇ, ನನ್ನ ಪ್ರಾಥಮಿಕ ಮತ್ತು ಸ್ವಾಗತವನ್ನ ತುಂಬಾ ಸ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ಟಾಗಿ ಮಾಡುವ ಕೂತಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಪತ್ರಕರ್ತರ ಮಿತ್ರರು ಇವತ್ತು ಅನೇಕ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಭಾಗವಹಿಸಬೇಕಾಗಿ ಬಂದಿಲ್ಲ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಅವರು ಮೊದಲೇ ವಿನಂತಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ನಾವೊಂದು ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಮಾತಾಡಬೇಕು ಅನ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾಗ ಧೈರ್ಯ ನಡೆಸಿದ್ದೆ. ಆದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಅನುಕೂಲಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಅದನ್ನ ಮೊಟಕು ಮಾಡಿ ತಮಗೆಲ್ಲ ತಿಳಿದಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂತೆ ಇವತ್ತು ನಾವು ಯಾಕೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸೇರಿದ್ದೀವಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಕಾರಣ ಇದೆ. 100 ದಶಕಗಳ ಹೋರಾಟ, ನ್ಯಾಯಾಲಯದ ತೀರ್ಪು, ಮುಂದೆ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ವರ್ಗೀಕರಣದ ಹಾದಿ ಇರಬೇಕು ಎನ್ನುವ ಸ್ಪಷ್ಟತೆ ಮುಂದಿರುವಾಗ ಬದ್ಧತೆಯ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಯನ್ನು ಎತ್ತುವಂತಹ ಸಂಕೀರ್ಣತೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನ ಆಯೋಜನೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ಕಳೆದ 10 ದಿನಗಳ ಹಿಂದೆ ನಮ್ಮ ರಾಜ್ಯ ಮಟ್ಟದ ಸಂವಿಧಾನ ರಕ್ಷಣಾ ಸಮಿತಿಯ ನೇತೃತ್ವದಲ್ಲಿ ಜಲದರ್ಶನದಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಸಭೆ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಆ ಸಭೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಸುದೀರ್ಘವಾಗಿ ಚರ್ಚಿಸಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೊರಹೊಮ್ಮಿದಂತಹದ್ದು ನಾವು ನಮ್ಮ ಕೇಂದ್ರದಿಂದ ನೀಡಿದಂತಹ ಸಲಹೆ ಏನು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು ಕಾನೂನಾತ್ಮಕವಾದಂತಹ ನೆಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇದನ್ನ ಹೇಗೆ ಪರಿಭಾವಿಸಬೇಕು, ಮೊದಲು ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಮನದಟ್ಟು ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಣ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನ ರೂಪಿಸಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ನಮ್ಮ ಮೀಸಲಾತಿ, ವರ್ಗೀಕರಣ ಮತ್ತು ಕೆರೆಪದ ಅವುಗಳನ್ನ ಹೇಗೆ ಮುಂದಿನ ಪೀಳಿಗೆಗೆ ಅರ್ಥೈಸಬೇಕು, ಅದು ಯಾವ ರೀತಿಯನ್ನ ಪ್ರಭುತ್ವ ಜಾರಿ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಆ ನೆಲೆಗಟ್ಟಲ್ಲಿ ಯೋಚಿಸುವಂತಹ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ಇದು. ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಕ್ಕೆ ನಮಗೆ ಒಂದು ಸರಿಯಾದಂತಹ ತಿಳುವಳಿಕೆಯನ್ನ ನೀಡುವಂತಹ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಗಳನ್ನೇ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕರೆಸಿ ನಾವು ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನ ಆಯೋಜನೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ನಮಗೆ ತಕ್ಕಂತ ಒಳದಿದ್ದೇ ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ ಕುಮಾರ್ ಅವರು. ಕಾರಣ ಅವರು ಈ ಚಳುವಳಿಯನ್ನು ನೋಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಕಾನೂನಿನ ಹೋರಾಟವನ್ನು ನೋಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಸಾಮಾಜಿಕ ನ್ಯಾಯದ ಪ್ರತಿಪಾದಕರು ಆಗಿರುವಂತಹ ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ ಕುಮಾರ್ ಅವರು ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಕ್ಕೆ ಚಾಲನೆ ಕೊಟ್ರೆ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಕ್ಕೆ ಮತ್ತಷ್ಟು ಚರ್ಚೆಯ ಅಂಶಗಳು ಸಿಕ್ಕುತ್ತೆ ಎನ್ನುವ ಕಾರಣಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಅವರನ್ನ ಸಂಪರ್ಕಿಸಿದಾಗ ಅವರು ಮರು ಮಾತಿಲ್ಲದೆ ನಾನು ಬರ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ. ದಿಸ್ ಶೋಸ್ ಹಿಸ್ ಕಮಿಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಫಾರ್ ದಿ ಕಾಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಸೋಷಿಯಲ್ ಜಸ್ಟಿಸ್. ಸರ್, ಆನ್ ಬಿಹಾಫ್ ಆಫ್ University of Mysore, Dr. Ambedkar Research Center, and on behalf of all the learned audience who have assembled here, I extend a warm welcome to you. ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ಬರೀ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಲ್ಲೇ ನಾವು ಚರ್ಚೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಸರಿ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತೀವಿ. ನಮಗೆ ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಬೇರುಗಳು ಎಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲಿವೆ, ರೂಟ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲಿದೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಹುಟ್ಟಾಗ ನಮ್ಮ ಪಕ್ಕದಲ್ಲೇ ಇದೆ ಅದರ ರೂಟ್ಸ್. ಸೊ ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಅವುಗಳನ್ನ ನಾವು ಬದಲು ಅಲ್ಲಿಯ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೀರಿಯನ್ಸ್ ಏನಿದೆ ಅದನ್ನ ನೋಡ್ಬೇಕಲ್ಲ ಅಂತೇಳಿ ನಾವು ಜವಾಹರ್ ನಿಸ್ಸನ್ ಅವರನ್ನ ಕೇಳಿದ್ವಿ. ವಂಡರ್ಫುಲ್ ಪರ್ಸನ್. ಜವಾಹರ್ ನಿಸ್ಸನ್ is not a social scientist. He is an engineer by profession, but his contribution to the higher education is enormous. He served as Vice Chancellor of 2 universities. His entire service speaks about how an engineer can really do the social engineering. After having interaction with him, I found in him he is the right person who can properly guide us on this issue. Sir, your biodata is so voluminous. Since our press friends have given us a caution, I don't want to venture into your biodata. Your speech itself speaks about the strength of intellectualism that you have imbibed through your career, sir. On behalf of all of us, I extend a warm welcome. Professor Jawahar Nissan speaks about the Tamil Nadu model. And we have with us Professor Negati Chinnarao, who has been a keen observer sitting in the capital city of the nation, coming from the state where the categorization issue was so severe, and I would like to say that spark could catch the sight of the Karnataka state too. When we approached Professor Chinnarao, he readily accepted our invitation and he is with us. And I came to know from his colleagues that he is authoring a very important book on this issue in the national perspective. Sir, I extend a warm welcome. One more interesting I missed to say about Jawahar Nissan. Since my teacher Professor Mahapati is here, Jawahar Nissan is authoring a very important issue which the higher education has to look for. For that, he said 12,000 sources he has examined. 12,000 sources. And the theme of that book is epistemology and education. This is the crux of the Indian society where we have to address. I'm very happy since we have the 2 important scholars from our southern states. We have a young scholar from our own state, from our own city, Dr. Chandrasekhar Raju. A very committed teacher, a practitioner. When we approached him, he said that I'm too young to this field. But I said that we want the younger people to speak. He sent his PPT for today's presentation. I feel that people like him should take the responsibility to make the inclusive society more meaningful. On behalf of all of us, I extend a warm welcome. We have a very important person, though physically he's not here, but he was the first person to log into our ESP. The president of this program, Professor Mohan Gopal. He is traveling, he is in Kerala, he is already joined. we approached him. He made it very clear, I'm not positive on this issue. We want such a person to preside, because the presidential remark after the scholarly presentation would eventually lead us where to go and how to go. On behalf of the University of Mysore and the participants who are assembled here, I extend a warm welcome to Professor Mohan Gopal, who is a legal luminary who has headed the National Law School of India University. He is very much with us. He has joined online. I also extend my sincere heartfelt welcome to the participants who have joined through online. Friends, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೆರೆದಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ನಮ್ಮ ಕರೆಗೆ ಮನ್ನಿಸಿ ಬಂದಿರತಕ್ಕಂಥವ್ರು ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ಚಳುವಳಿಗಾರರಿದ್ದೀರ, ಸಂಘಟನೆಯಿಂದ ಬಂದಿರತಕ್ಕಂಥವ್ರು, ನೌಕರರಿದ್ದೀರ, ನಿವೃತ್ತ ನೌಕರರಿದ್ದೀರ. ಈ ಸಭಾಂಗಣದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ವಿಶ್ವಜ್ಞಾನಿ ಸಭಾಂಗಣ ಅಂತ ಈ ಸಭಾಂಗಣಕ್ಕೆ ಕರೆದಿರೋದು, ಈ ಸಭಾಂಗಣದಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಂದು ಕೂಡ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಗಳು ನಮ್ಮನ್ನ ಎಂಪವರ್ ಮಾಡುವ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಗಳೇ. ನನಗೆ ನಾವು ಕೈಗೆತ್ಕೊಂಡಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಈ ಕೆಲಸ ಸಾರ್ಥಕ ಅಂತ ಅನಿಸುತ್ತೆ. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಎಲ್ಲ ಸ್ನೇಹಿತರು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದಿದ್ದೀರಾ, ಇನ್ನೂ ಕೆಲವರು ಬರೋರಿದ್ದೀರಾ. ನಿಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಾನು ಆತ್ಮೀಯವಾಗಿ ಸ್ವಾಗತವನ್ನು ಬಯಸ್ತೇನೆ. ನಮ್ಮ ಕಲ್ಯಾಣಪುರಿ ಪಂತೇಜಿಯವರು ನಮ್ಮ ಜೊತೆ ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ. ಅವರ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಜೊತೆ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವರ ಮಾರ್ಗದರ್ಶನ ಈ ಕೇಂದ್ರಕ್ಕೆ ಮತ್ತು ನಮಗೆ ಸದಾ ಇದ್ದೇ ಇರ್ತದೆ. ನಮ್ಮ ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾಲಯದ ವಿವಿಧ ವಿಭಾಗಗಳನ್ನು ಬಂದಿರತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಪ್ರಾಧ್ಯಾಪಕ ಮಿತ್ರರಿದ್ದೀರ. ಇವೆಲ್ಲ ಒಂದು ಶಕ್ತಿ ನಮಗೆ. ಇವೆಲ್ಲ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದಲ್ಲಿ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಮೀಸಲಾತಿಯ ವರ್ಗೀಕರಣದ ವಿಚಾರದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಗೆ ಮೈಸೂರು ದೇಶವೇ ಬಂದ್ ಆಚರಿಸಿದಾಗ ಮೈಸೂರು ನಿಶಬ್ದವಾಗಿತ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಯಾಕಿತ್ತು ಅನ್ನೋ ವಿಚಾರ ಕೊಡಬೇಕಿತ್ತು. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ನಮ್ಮ ರೆಸ್ಪಾನ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ನಾವು ಗುಣಾತ್ಮಕವಾಗಿ ಕೊಡುವ ಕಡೆ ನಮ್ಮ ನಿಲುವು ಇದೆ ಎನ್ನುವುದನ್ನ ಅಭಿವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಸುವ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ಇದು. ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂದಿರತಕ್ಕಂಥ ತಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನನಗೆ ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಬ್ಬರ ಹೆಸರನ್ನು ನಾನು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಈಗಾಗಲೇ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಮಾತಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಆಗಲೇ ಟೈಮ್ ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಗೆಳೆಯರು. ಅನ್ಯತೆ ಭಾವಿಸ್ಬಿಡಿ, ಇದು ಎಲ್ಲರ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ. ನಮ್ಮ ಪುರುಷೋತ್ತಮ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ನಮ್ಮ ಸರಾಂಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಉಪ್ಪಾಳ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ತಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮ್ಮ ಓಪನ್ ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿಯಿಂದ ಶಂಕರ್ ನಾರಾಯಣಪ್ಪ, ನಮ್ಮ ರೈಲ್ವೆ ಎಂಪ್ಲಾಯೀಸ್ ಅಸೋಸಿಯೇಷನ್ ಪ್ರೆಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಹೀಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಬಂದಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದಾರೆ. ನಮ್ಮ ಹಿಂದಿನ ನಿರ್ದೇಶಕರು ಬಿ ಜಯಶಂಕರ್ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ ರವಿವರ್ ಕುಮಾರ್ ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಅರ್ಕೇಶ್ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಇದ್ದೇ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ. ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ನಮ್ಮ ಜೊತೆ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ನಾವು ಏನಾದ್ರು ಒಂದು ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಅರ್ಥಪೂರ್ಣವಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಭಾವಿಸಿ ನಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ವಿಶೇಷವಾಗಿ ಮತ್ತೊಮ್ಮೆ ಸ್ವಾಗತನ ಕೋರ್ತಾ ನಮ್ಮ ಮಾತಿಗೆ ವಿರಾಮ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ. ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ.
ಸರ್ವರಿಗೂ ಸ್ವಾಗತವನ್ನು ಬಯಸುತ್ತಾ ಬಹಳ ಅರ್ಥಪೂರ್ಣವಾಗಿ ಪ್ರಾಸ್ತಾವಿಕ ನುಡಿಗಳನ್ನಾಡಿದಂತಹ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದ ರೂವಾರಿಗಳು ಹಾಗೂ ನಮ್ಮ ಕೇಂದ್ರದ ನಿರ್ದೇಶಕರು ಆದಂತಹ ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ ಜೆ ಸೋಮಶೇಖರ್ ಸರ್ ಅವರಿಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ನಿಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರ ಪರವಾಗಿ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳನ್ನು ಅರ್ಪಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ. ಹಾಗೆ ಈಗ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದ ಉದ್ಘಾಟನೆ ವೇದಿಕೆ ಮೇಲಿರುವ ಗಣ್ಯರು ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನು ಉದ್ಘಾಟಿಸಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಕೇಳಿಕೊಳ್ತೇನೆ. Now I request all dignitaries to inaugurate the program. ಸಾಮಾಜಿಕ ಮೌಲ್ಯಗಳ ಪ್ರತಿಪಾದಕರು ಹಾಗೂ ಗುಣಾತ್ಮಕ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿತ್ವವುಳ್ಳಂತ ಅನೇಕ ಉತ್ಕೃಷ್ಟ ವಾದಗಳನ್ನು ಮಂಡಿಸಿರುವಂತಹ ನಾಡಿನಾದ್ಯಂತ ಹೆಸರುವಾಸಿಯಾಗಿರುವ ಹಿರಿಯ ನ್ಯಾಯವಾದಿಗಳು ಹಾಗೂ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ರಾಜ್ಯದ ಶಾಶ್ವತ ಹಿಂದುಳಿದ ವರ್ಗಗಳ ಆಯೋಗದ ವಿಶ್ರಾಂತ ಅಧ್ಯಕ್ಷಕರು ಆದಂತಹ ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ ರವಿವರ್ಮ ಕುಮಾರ್ ಸರ್ ಅವರು ಉದ್ಘಾಟನಾ ಭಾಷಣವನ್ನ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಕೇಳ್ಕೊಳ್ತೀನಿ.
My good friend, Professor Mohan Gopal is preparing over this other function. Fellow panelists, Professor Jawahar Nathan, Dr. Chinna Rao, my good friend Mr. Chandrasekhar, Ayo, the architect of this all-important discussion and director of the Babasaheb Ambedkar Research and Extension Center, Professor Somsekhar, esteemed members of the faculty, my friend, philosopher and guide, Professor Umapati, my good friends, Mr. Rakesh and Mahesh. I saw Dr. Nityanand Rao some time ago. I don't know if he's still here. If I'm standing before you, he is responsible for keeping on my legs back. Research scholars, other students, ladies and gentlemen, and the friends from media. At the outset, I congratulate Professor Somsekhar, his teammates from Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Research and Extension Center for taking up this subject for discussion. Perhaps the first university in the first program in a university anywhere in the country after the judgment of so I congratulate you on this bold and beautiful step of taking up the matter for discussion. The debate today has been ignited. Don't know you. ಕೆಲವರು ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತಾಡಿದ್ರಿ, ಕೆಲವರು ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತಾಡಿದ್ರು. I leave it to the audience to decide which subject I should speak. ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾ, ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾ? ಇಲ್ಲಿವರೆಗೂ ಕೇಳಿದ್ದು ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಕೇಳಿ ಅಂತ ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಕೇಳಿದ್ದೇನೆ. I'll definitely speak wherever necessary in English also. ಸೊ ಈ ವಿಚಾರ ಇವತ್ತು ಬೆಳಕಿಗೆ ಬರಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಬಹಳ ಮುಖ್ಯವಾದಂತ ಕಾರಣ 7 ಸದಸ್ಯರ ಪೀಠ ಸುಪ್ರೀಂ ಕೋರ್ಟ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೇ ತಿಂಗಳ 1ನೇ ತಾರೀಕಿನಂದು ಒಂದು ತೀರ್ಪು. ಆ ತೀರ್ಪಿನ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಇದುವರೆಗೆ ನಿಷಿದ್ಧವಾಗಿದ್ದಂತ ಒಂದು ವಿಚಾರ. ಗೆಳೆಯರಾದ ಚಿನ್ನರಾವ್ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಅವರು ಆಂಧ್ರ ಪ್ರದೇಶದಿಂದ ಬಂದಂತವರು. ಆಂಧ್ರ ಪ್ರದೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೊಂದು ಬಹಳ ಚರ್ಚಿತ ವಿಷಯ ಮತ್ತು ಮೇಲೆ ಕೆಳಗಡೆ ಹೋದಂತಹ ಒಂದು ವಿಚಾರ. ಕೊನೆಗೆ ಸಂವಿಧಾನದ ಪೀಠ, 5 ಸದಸ್ಯರ ಪೀಠ 2006ನೇ ಇಸ್ವಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ವಿ ಚಿನ್ನಯ್ಯ ಅನ್ನುವ ಮೊಕದ್ದಮೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಪರಿಶಿಷ್ಟ ಜಾತಿ ಮತ್ತು ಪರಿಶಿಷ್ಟ ಪಂಗಡಗಳನ್ನ ವಿಂಗಡಣೆ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಬರೋದಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಘಂಟಾಘೋಷವಾಗಿ ಹೇಳಿದ ಹಿನ್ನೆಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದೇ ರಾಜ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಇಂತಹ ಪ್ರಕ್ರಿಯೆ ನೆನೆಗುದಿಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಬಹಳ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಒಂದು ಸಾಹಸ ಮಾಡಿ ನ್ಯಾಯಮೂರ್ತಿ ಎ.ಜೆ. ಸದಾಶಿವ ಆಯೋಗದ ವಿಚಾರಣೆಗೆ ಈ ವಿಚಾರವನ್ನ ಒಪ್ಪಿಸಲಾಗಿತ್ತು. ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಗಮನ ಇದ್ದಾಗೆ 2012ನೇ ಇಸ್ವಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಅವರು ವರದಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟರು ಅಂತ ಕಾಣುತ್ತೆ. 2012 ಅವರು ವರದಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಪರಿಶಿಷ್ಟ ಜಾತಿ ಮತ್ತು ಪರಿಶಿಷ್ಟ ಪಂಗಡಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಸಮಾನತೆ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಇರುವ ಜಾತಿಗಳು ಒಂದೇ ಲೆವೆಲ್ ಪ್ಲೇಯಿಂಗ್, ದೇ ಡೋಂಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ದಿ ಸೇಮ್ ಲೆವೆಲ್ ಪ್ಲೇಯಿಂಗ್ ಫೀಲ್ಡ್. ಆ ಕಾರಣಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಪರಿಶಿಷ್ಟ ಜಾತಿಗಳನ್ನ ವರ್ಗೀಕರಣ ಮಾಡುವುದು ಅನಿವಾರ್ಯ ಮತ್ತು ಅವಶ್ಯಕತೆ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ 4 ಭಾಗಗಳಾಗಿ ವಿಂಗಡಿಸಿ ಅವರ ಪ್ರಜಾಸಂಖ್ಯೆಗೆ ಅನುಗುಣವಾಗಿ ಅವರು ನಡೆಸಿದ ಸಮೀಕ್ಷೆಯ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಅವರು ಕಂಡುಹಿಡಿದ ಪ್ರಜಾಸಂಖ್ಯೆ 4 ಭಾಗಗಳಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಹಂಚಿ ಶಿಫಾರಸು ಮಾಡಿದೆ. ಬರೋಬ್ಬರಿ 12 ವರ್ಷಗಳ ಹಿಂದೆ. ಅದು ಇನ್ನೂ ಜಾರಿಯಾಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಬಟ್ ಅದರ ಮೇಲೆ ಚರ್ಚೆ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಏತನ್ಮಧ್ಯೆ ನಾಳೆ ಎಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಇದೆ ಅನ್ನುವಾಗ ಹಿಂದಿನ ಸರ್ಕಾರ ಹಿಂದಿನ ದಿವಸ ಒಂದು ಆದೇಶ ಹೊರಡಿಸ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ನಾವು ವಿಭಾಗಿಸಿದ್ದೇವೆ, ಮೀಸಲಾತಿಯನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಆ ಪ್ರಮಾಣದಲ್ಲಿ ಕೊಟ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೇವೆ ಅಂತ ಎಲ್ಲ ಒಂದು ದೊಡ್ಡ ಇದನ್ನ ಮಾಡಿ ಕೊನೆಗೆ ಒಂದು ಫುಟ್ನೋಟ್ ಏನು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ಇದು ಕೇಂದ್ರ ಸರ್ಕಾರ ಸಂವಿಧಾನ ತಿದ್ದುಪಡಿಗೆ ನಾವು ಮಾಡಿರುವಂತಹ ಒಂದು ವಿಚಾರ, ಅದನ್ನ ರಾಜ್ಯಪಾಲರು ಶಿಫಾರಸು ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಕೇಂದ್ರ ಸರ್ಕಾರ ಪರಿಗಣಿಸಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇದು ನಾವು ತೀರ್ಮಾನ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದನ್ನ ಅವರು ಕೊನೆಗೆ ಹೇಳೋದೇನು, ಇದನ್ನ ರಾಜ್ಯಪಾಲರು ಕೇಂದ್ರ ಸರ್ಕಾರಕ್ಕೆ ಒತ್ತಾಕ್ಬೇಕು, ಆಗ ಕೇಂದ್ರ ಸರ್ಕಾರ ಸಂವಿಧಾನವನ್ನ ತಿದ್ದುಪಡಿ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋ ವಿಚಾರ. ಇದು 23/3/2023 ಇಸ್ವಿಲಿ ನಡೆದಂತ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಕ್ರಿಯೆ ಇಷ್ಟಾಗಿದೆ. ಏತನ್ಮಧ್ಯೆ ನಾಗಮೋಹನ್ ದಾಸ್ ಅವರ ಸಮಿತಿಯನ್ನ ಒಂದು ನೇಮಕ ಮಾಡಲಾಗಿದ್ದು, ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ಸೀಮಿತವಾದಂತ ಒಂದು ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದು, ಪರಿಶಿಷ್ಟ ಜಾತಿ ಮತ್ತು ಪರಿಶಿಷ್ಟ ವರ್ಗಗಳಿಗೆ ಅವರ ಪ್ರಜಾಸಂಖ್ಯೆಗೆ ಅನುಗುಣವಾಗಿ ಮೀಸಲಾತಿಯ ಪ್ರಮಾಣವನ್ನ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಮಾಡಬೇಕೆ, ಹಾಗಿದ್ರೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ಆ ಶಿಫಾರಸನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಒಪ್ಪಿ ಒಂದು ಆರ್ಡಿನೆನ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಆದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಆಕ್ಟ್ ಕೂಡ ಆಗಿದೆ, ಇದುವರೆಗೆ ಜಾರಿಯಾಗಿದೆ. ಇದು ಸ್ನೇಹಿತರೆ ಇವತ್ತಿನ ವಸ್ತು ಸ್ಥಿತಿ. ನಾವು ಏತನ್ಮಧ್ಯೆ ಈಗ ಬಂದಿದೆ. ತೀರ್ಪಿನ ಬಹಳ ಮುಖ್ಯವಾದ ವಿಚಾರಗಳನ್ನ ನಾವು ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ತಿಳಿಸ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಈಗಾಗಲೇ ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ಪತ್ರಿಕೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಪ್ರಚಾರ ಸಿಕ್ಕಿದೆ. ಆ ತೀರ್ಪಿನ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಮೂರು ಮುಖ್ಯ ವಿಚಾರಗಳು ಪ್ರಸ್ತಾಪವಾಗಿದ್ದಾವೆ. ಒಂದು, ಪರಿಶಿಷ್ಟ ಜಾತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆನೆ ಪದರದ ತತ್ವವನ್ನ ಅಳವಡಿಸಬೇಕೆ? ಇದು ಬಹಳ ಮುಖ್ಯವಾದಂತಹ ಒಂದು ವಿಚಾರ. ಎರಡನೇದು, ಪರಿಶಿಷ್ಟ ಜಾತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುವ ಜಾತಿಗಳನ್ನ ಮರು ವಿಂಗಡಣೆ ಮಾಡಿ ಅವುಗಳಿಗೆ ಪ್ರತ್ಯೇಕವಾದ ಮೀಸಲಾತಿಯನ್ನ ಕೊಡಬಹುದು. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಕ್ಯಾಟಗರೈಸೇಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಶೆಡ್ಯೂಲ್ ಕ್ಯಾಸ್ಟ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಶೆಡ್ಯೂಲ್ ಟ್ರೈಬ್ಸ್. ಮೂರನೆಯದು, ಆ ರೀತಿ ಮರು ವಿಂಗಡಣೆ ಮಾಡುವ ಅಧಿಕಾರ ರಾಜ್ಯ ಸರ್ಕಾರಕ್ಕಿದೆಯೇ? ಸೊ ಈ ಮೂರು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗಳಿಗೆ 7 ಸದಸ್ಯರ ಪೀಠ ತೀರ್ಪನ್ನು ಕೊಟ್ಟು 3 ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗಳಿಗೆ ಸಕಾರಾತ್ಮಕವಾಗಿ ಉತ್ತರ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿತ್ತು. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಕೆರೆ ಪದರದ ನೀತಿಯನ್ನ ಪರಿಶಿಷ್ಟ ಜಾತಿಯಲ್ಲೂ ಅನ್ವಯಿಸಬೇಕು. ಎರಡನೇದಾಗಿ, ಪರಿಶಿಷ್ಟ ಜಾತಿಗಳನ್ನ ಮರು ವಿಂಗಡಣೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಯಾಕೆಂದ್ರೆ ಪರಿಶಿಷ್ಟ ಜಾತಿಗಳು ಒಂದು ಹೋಮೋಜಿನಿಯಸ್ ಗ್ರೂಪ್ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಸಮಾನಾಂತರ ಜಾತಿಗಳಲ್ಲ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಅವುಗಳ ಮರು ವಿಂಗಡಣೆ ಆಗಬೇಕು. ಮೂರನೇದು, ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಮುಖ್ಯವಾದಂಥದ್ದು, ರಾಜ್ಯ ಸರ್ಕಾರಗಳಿಗೇನೆ ಈ ಅಧಿಕಾರವಿದೆ. ಇದು ಕೊಟ್ಟಂತಹ ತೀರ್ಪು. ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಅದರ ಟೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಅನ್ನು ನಿಮ್ಗೆ 2 ಮಾತಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ಚೀಫ್ ಜಸ್ಟಿಸ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಂತಹ ಮುಖ್ಯ ತೀರ್ಪಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಒಟ್ಟು 7 ವಿಚಾರಗಳನ್ನ ತಿಳಿಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಮೊದಲನೇದಾಗಿ, ಪರಿಶಿಷ್ಟ ಜಾತಿಗಳ ವರ್ಗ ಈಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಎ ಹೋಮೋಜಿನಿಯಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಇಂಟಿಗ್ರೇಟೆಡ್ ಗ್ರೂಪ್? ಇಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ನುವ ಒಂದು ತೀರ್ಪನ್ನು ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಎರಡನೇದು, ಹಿಂದುಳಿದ ವರ್ಗಗಳ ಆಯೋಗ, ಮಂಡಲ ಆಯೋಗದ ಶಿಫಾರಸುಗಳ ಸಂವಿಧಾನ ಬದ್ಧತೆಯನ್ನ ತೀರ್ಮಾನಿಸಿದಂತಹ 9 ಸದಸ್ಯರ ಪೀಠ, ಸುಪ್ರೀಂ ಕೋರ್ಟ್ 9 ಇಂದ್ರಸಾನಿ ಮೊಕದ್ದಮೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಆ ಇಂದ್ರಸಾನಿ ಮೊಕದ್ದಮೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಪರಿಶಿಷ್ಟ ಜಾತಿ ಮತ್ತು ಪರಿಶಿಷ್ಟ ಪಂಗಡಗಳ ವರ್ಗೀಕರಣ ಆಗಬಾರ್ದು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ಯಾ? ಆ ತರ ಹೇಳಿಲ್ಲ. ಆದ್ರಿಂದ ಇದನ್ನ ಇನ್ನೂ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಪೀಠಕ್ಕೆ ಹೊತ್ತಾಕೋದು ಅವಶ್ಯಕತೆ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ನೋ ಮಾತು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಮೂರನೇದು, ಪರಿಶಿಷ್ಟ ಜಾತಿಗಳ ಪಟ್ಟಿಯನ್ನ ತಯಾರು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದು 341ನೇ ಪರಿಚ್ಛೇದದಲ್ಲಿ. ಆ ಪರಿಚ್ಛೇದದ ಕೆಳಗಡೆ is there a deeming clause, a fiction introduced to say that scheduled caste shall form one class, one homogeneous class, one indivisible class ಅಂತ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರು. ಅದಕ್ಕೂ ಕೂಡ ನಕಾರಾತ್ಮಕವಾಗಿ ಉತ್ತರ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಈ ಕಾರಣಗಳಿಗೆ ವರ್ಗೀಕರಣ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಕೆಲವು ರೈಡರ್ಸ್, ಏನ್ ರೈಡರ್ಸ್ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ವರ್ಗೀಕರಣ ಮಾಡಿದ ಯಾವುದೇ ಒಂದು ಗುಂಪಿಗೆ ಬೇರೆ ಗುಂಪುಗಳಿಗೆ ಸಂಪೂರ್ಣವಾಗಿ ನಿರ್ಲಕ್ಷ್ಯ ಮಾಡುವಂತಹ ಮರು ವಿಂಗಡಣೆ ಮಾಡಿ ಇದನ್ನ ಇರುವ ಮೀಸಲಾತಿಯನ್ನ ಹಂಚಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಬರೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ದೇ ಕೆನಾಟ್ ಬಿ ಎನಿ ಮೊನಾಪಲಿ ಇನ್ ಫೇವರ್ ಆಫ್ ಎನಿ ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ಗ್ರೂಪ್ ಆರ್ ಕ್ಯಾಟಗರಿ. ಮತ್ತೆ ಸಬ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸಿಫಿಕೇಶನ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಯಾವುದಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ? ಒಂದು, ಶಿಕ್ಷಣ ಮತ್ತಿತರ ಕ್ಷೇತ್ರಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ರಾಜ್ಯ ಸರ್ಕಾರಗಳು ಮಾಡುವಂತಹ ಸಾಮಾಜಿಕ ಕಲ್ಯಾಣ ಪರಿಚ್ಛೇದ 15(4) ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು, ಮರು ವಿಂಗಡಣೆ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. ಎರಡನೇದಾಗಿ, ರಾಜ್ಯ ಸರ್ಕಾರಿ ಸೇವೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಪರಿಶಿಷ್ಟ ಜಾತಿಗಳಿಗೆ ಮೀಸಲಾತಿಯನ್ನು ಕೊಡುವಾಗ ಮರು ವಿಂಗಡಣೆ ಮಾಡಿ ಆ ಮರು ವಿಂಗಡಣೆಯ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ತೀರ್ಪನ್ನ ಕೊಡ್ಬೋದು, ಇದು ಮೀಸಲಾತಿಯನ್ನ ಕೊಡ್ಬೋದು. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಮರು ವಿಂಗಡಣೆ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಅವಕಾಶವೇ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದ ಚಿನ್ನಯ್ಯ ಮೊಕದ್ದಮೆಯನ್ನ ಸಂವಿಧಾನ ಪೀಠದ ಇದನ್ನ ಸರಾಸಟ್ಟಾಗಿ ಅದನ್ನ ಓವರ್ ರೂಲ್ ಮಾಡಿದೆ. ಸೊ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ನೋ ಲಾಂಗರ್ ಚಿನ್ನಯ್ಯ ಇಸ್ ನೋ ಲಾಂಗರ್ ಗುಡ್ ಲಾ. ಆದ್ರೆ ಫರ್ದರ್ ರೈಟರ್ಸ್ ಏನಪ್ಪಾ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ನೀವು ಈ ರೀತಿ ಕ್ಯಾಟಗರೈಸೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಬಹಳ ಮುಖ್ಯವಾಗಿ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಪೂರಕವಾದಂತಹ ಅಂಕಿ ಅಂಶಗಳನ್ನ ಸಂಗ್ರಹಿಸಬೇಕು. ಎಂಪೆರಿಕಲ್ ಡೇಟಾ, contemporaneous empirical data has to be collected in respect of each of these castes before they are considered for categorization. And they can be so separately categorized if and only if their representation in the services is inadequate compared to the other sections which are left out of these categorized sections. And above all, ಬಹಳ ಒಂದು ಒಳ್ಳೆಯ ವ್ಯಾಖ್ಯಾನ ಆಗಿದ್ದು ಇದು. This is my favorite this thing. As students of political science, I request all the research scholars here to explore this, how this came to be done. ಬಾಬಾ ಸಾಹೇಬ್ ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ್ ಅವರು ಸಂವಿಧಾನ ರಚನೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಪರಿಶಿಷ್ಟ ಜಾತಿ ಮತ್ತು ಪರಿಶಿಷ್ಟ ಪಂಗಡಗಳ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ರಿಸರ್ವೇಶನ್ 16(4) ಡ್ರಾಫ್ಟ್ ಆರ್ಟಿಕಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ 10(3) ಆಗಿತ್ತು. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ರಿಸರ್ವೇಶನ್ ಫಾರ್ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ವರ್ಡ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, ಶೆಡ್ಯೂಲ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಅಂತ ಸಪರೇಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಹೇಳಿಲ್ಲ. ಆದ್ರೆ ಬಹಳ ಮುಖ್ಯವಾಗಿ ಪರಿಚ್ಛೇದ 335ರಲ್ಲಿ there is a mandatory direction that the claims of scheduled castes and scheduled tribes shall be considered. Adana shall be considered while making appointments to services under the state of the ಹೇಳಿದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೊಂದು ಬಾಲಂಗೋಚಿ ಹಾಕಿದ್ರು. ಏನಪ್ಪಾ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, consistent with the efficiency of administration ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ಇದುವರೆಗೆ ಸ್ನೇಹಿತರೆ ಈ ಆರ್ಟಿಕಲ್ ಅನ್ನ, though it is in favor of scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, all the courts have used this provision to annul the reservation that has been provided to scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, on the ground that it is not based on merit. It is based on a quota. And for that reason, efficiency of administration is impaired. I'm extremely happy to tell you the Supreme Court has put its foot down on this kind of a negative interpretation that was given to 335, and they say now emphatically declare Article 335 is not a limitation on the consideration of the claims of scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. Efficiency of administration in this article should be looked at as a tool to promote inclusion and equality. That means the claims of scheduled castes and scheduled tribes should be mandatorily considered. And this is the most important declaration the Honorable Supreme Court has made, and I fully endorse this interpretation given for the first time. The Supreme Court has come out with the positive interpretation of Article 335. Otherwise, it was used as a tool to invalidate all the affirmative action programs or the reservation policies provided in favor of scheduled castes and scheduled. So, ಇದು ನ್ಯಾಯಮೂರ್ತಿ ಚಂದ್ರಚೂಡ್ ಅವರು ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರುವಂತಹ ಮುಖ್ಯ ತೀರ್ಪು. ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಬಹುತೇಕ ಎಲ್ಲ ನ್ಯಾಯಮೂರ್ತಿಗಳು ಕೂಡ ಸಹಮತ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಪಡಿಸಿದರು. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ this is a judgment by the majority. At the same time, I should also tell you this. This is a fractured verdict. It is not unanimous. There are 5 judgments in all by 7 judges. One judge has refused to agree that Chinnaya needs to be reconsidered, and therefore says the very reference is bad and therefore she doesn't proceed. That is Justice Trivedi. Madam Trivedi has ruled negatively, saying that the very reference is invalid and therefore she would not be. Now Gawai wrote a separate judgment. Justice Gawai, who is the expected Chief Justice of India, somewhere later in this year, has written, and the only scheduled caste member on the bench. He has made a very interesting contribution. Before that, I would like to show what were the issues before the court. This is what issues were there before the court is emphatically enumerated in the judgment of the Honorable Chief Justice at paragraph 43. I would like to read it from the text so that there are no misgivings about it. ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಗಮನಿಸಬೇಕು. ಏನು ವಿಷಯಗಳು ಸುಪ್ರೀಂ ಕೋರ್ಟಿನ ಮುಂದೆ ಇತ್ತು. ನಂಬರ್ 1, whether some classification of a reserved class is permissible under Articles 14, 15, 16. That is the first question. Second, whether the scheduled caste constitute a homogeneous or a heterogeneous group. Second question. Question number 3, whether Article 341 creates a homogeneous class through the operation of the deeming clause fiction, by way of a fiction. Nalaknedu, whether there are any limits on the scope of subclass. So these are the only 4 questions. So my first question to all of you is to find out from where did this creamy layer principle crop up? How did it crop up and why did it crop up? My friends, repeatedly this is happening. Indraswamy was a case which related to reservation in favor of backward classes and not scheduled castes or scheduled tribes. No issue relating to scheduled caste was before the 9th in So, no scheduled caste organization or person volunteer to argue the matter for or against in interest. Nevertheless, the unanimous declaration of law by the 9 judges bench was that there should be no reservation in promotion. Only scheduled castes and scheduled tribes enjoyed reservation. So the worst hit by the judgment in Indraswamy were the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes who enjoyed the benefit of reservation. After Jagjivan Ram introduced reservation policy in promotions when he was a railway minister, way back in 1961. And it has been upheld everywhere. Now, the 9 judges ruled that there is no reservation. Likewise, why I read out paragraph 43 of Justice Chandrachud's judgment, which is the lead judgment, is to show to you that the issue of creamy layer was not before the Supreme Court. So I would like this August Assembly, why is it repeatedly happening that the interests of scheduled castes and scheduled tribes receive such a beating at the hands of the Supreme Court? Once by saying that there is no reservation in promotion. Now by saying that there is no creamy layer. I don't think I have enough time to go into the questions. If I have enough time, I will demonstrate the fallacy of creamy layer. Now, creamy layer is not a limitation imposed under the Constitution. And everyone who is speaking of creamy layer speaks as if he is speaking for the other members in the same category, either backward classes or scheduled castes or scheduled tribes, as if by the creamy layer enjoying the benefits of reservation, the other sections are deprived of their opportunities. Now, the one and the only object of reservation under the Constitution, all of you should kindly bear this in mind. ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಗಮನ ಇಟ್ಟು ಕೇಳಬೇಕು, ಇದು ಬಹಳ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ಮೀಸಲಾತಿಯನ್ನ ಯಾತಕ್ಕೆ ಕೊಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಒಂದೇ ಒಂದು ಕಾರಣ. ಆ ಒಂದು ಕಾರಣ ಏನಪ್ಪಾ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಇವರಿಗೆ ಇದುವರೆಗೆ ಅಧಿಕಾರದಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದೇ ಪ್ರಾತಿನಿಧ್ಯ ಸಿಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ, ವಿಶೇಷವಾಗಿ ಸರ್ಕಾರಿ ಸೇವೆಯಲ್ಲಿ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಿಮ್ಗೊಂದು ಒಂದೇ ಒಂದು ಸಣ್ಣ ಇದನ್ನು ಕೊಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಹೇಳ್ತೇನೆ. ಈ ರಾಷ್ಟ್ರದಲ್ಲಿ ಮೊದಲ ಸೆನ್ಸಸ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದು 1872 ಇಸ್ವಿ, ಮೊಟ್ಟ ಮೊದಲ ಸರ್ವೆ. ಅಲ್ಲಿವರೆಗೆ ಯಾರ್ಯಾರ ಜನಸಂಖ್ಯೆ ಎಷ್ಟಿತ್ತು ಅಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ನಮ್ಮ ಮೈಸೂರು ಸಂಸ್ಥಾನದ ಸರ್ಕಾರಿ ಸೇವೆಯಲ್ಲಂತೂ ಪೂರ್ತಿ ಬ್ರಾಹ್ಮಣರದ್ದೇ ಸಾಮ್ರಾಜ್ಯವಾಗಿತ್ತು. ಸೊ ಸಹಜವಾಗಿ ಕನ್ನಡಿಗರೆಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ರು ಬ್ರಾಹ್ಮಣರೇ ಮೆಜಾರಿಟಿ ಇರಬೇಕು ಈ ರಾಜ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ. ಆದ್ರೆ 1872 ಜನಗಣತಿ ಏನ್ ತೋರಿಸ್ತು, ಮೊಟ್ಟ ಮೊದಲ ಜನಗಣತಿ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಬ್ರಾಹ್ಮಣರು ಕೇವಲ 3% ಪಾಪ್ಯುಲೇಷನ್, ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ 90ಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಮಿಗಿಲಾಗಿ ಪ್ರಾತಿನಿಧ್ಯ ಸಿಕ್ಕಿರೋರು, ಅವರ ಜನಸಂಖ್ಯೆಗೆ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿಯಿಂದ ಕೂಡ ಹೊಂದಿಸ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಾಗದೆ ಇರುವಂತದ್ದು. ಸೊ ದಿ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಕನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ರಿಸರ್ವೇಶನ್, ಐ ರಿಕ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮೈ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ಸ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ Tamil Nadu and Andhra also take note of this. The first concept of reservation or social justice policy was introduced in the princely state of Mysore in the year 1874, just 2 years after the first caste census was conducted. It was introduced in the police department. It was similar to the communal GO subsequently introduced in Tamil Nadu. What did it say? It said, out of every 10 posts of inspectors of police, Brahmins shall not be given more than 2. So only 2 posts were given to Brahmins, and 8 were given to Mussalmans, kindly what? Mussalmans and other Hindus. Why are you doing this? The only object, kindly mark it, is to bring down the preponderance of Brahmins in public administration. This was the concept introduced, and the object of introduction of it is to bring down the preponderance of Brahmins in public administration. Over the period, this bringing down the preponderance of Brahmins has taken a positive attitude, namely to provide adequate representation to the backward classes. So this is the object. It is Karnataka which provided the lead. Now, I am glad Mysore University is providing the lead in taking up the subject for discussion in the academy. I want the state of Karnataka to take the lead in the entire country in the matter of tackling the issue of creamy layer as also providing the categorization. So the only object of reservation now under the constitution, whether it is 15(4), 16(4), Article 330 in Lok Sabha, 331 in Vidhan Sabha, they are only with the object of providing representation. These provisions are not unemployment relief programs. Kindly mark it. If it is an unemployment relief program, you should be worried. The other members of this caste or community are not getting employed. In fact, what we have not looked into is Baba Sahib Ambedkar gave a very detailed form statement to the Kaka Commission, which presented its report in 1955. There he says this: why should there be reservation? Are you not creating? Kalelkar asks a question: are you not creating a dunghill in a community by propping up 1, 2, or 3, or 4 IAS officers? Baba Sahib says the whole idea is to be that each caste gets its due representation proportionate to their population. So that is the object. The object is to ensure that there is representation for all the sections of the society. And now Honorable Supreme Court has very rightly declared it is equality and inclusiveness. That is merit. That is efficiency of administration. But Justice Gawai's judgment does not even whisper as to his subject of reservation. As if it is an unemployment relief program, he goes on worried. The other question he asks is, why should an IAS officer's son again get a reservation? Very good, sir. Why are you not asking this question to people outside the reserve pool? Are you not asking them to compete? If that is so, you are eliminating the best candidates from the scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, and other backward classes category in the name of creamy layer. In other words, you are throwing out the best from the scheduled caste and eliminate all competition to the upper caste IAS officers, IPS officers. Now, one thing that is forgotten while writing this judgment on creamy layer is once again an issue which I would like you to remember. Now, this is an issue relating to the foundation for the list of scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. ಯಾರಾದ್ರೂ ಹೇಳ್ತೀರಾ ಪರಿಶಿಷ್ಟ ಜಾತಿಯ ಪಟ್ಟಿಯನ್ನ ಈಗ ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿರೋದು ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಲ್ಲಿರೋ ಪಟ್ಟಿಯನ್ನ ಯಾವ ವರ್ಷ ಯಾರು ತಯಾರು ಮಾಡೋದು ಹೇಳ್ತೀರಾ? ಇಷ್ಟೊಂದು ದೊಡ್ಡ ಸಂಶೋಧನೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಿ ಬಾಬಾ ಸಾಹೇಬ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ, ನೀವು ಹೇಳಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ತಯಾರಿ? ಓಕೆ, ಯಾವ ಯಾವ ಧರ್ಮದವರಿಗೆ ಪರಿಶಿಷ್ಟ ಜಾತಿಯ ಸೌಲಭ್ಯಗಳನ್ನು ವಿಸ್ತರಣೆ ಮಾಡಲಾಗಿದೆ ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಹೇಳ್ತೀರಾ? ಹಿಂದೂ ಮತ್ತೆ ಬೌದ್ಧ ಧರ್ಮ. ಓಕೆ, ರಾಮದಾಸಿ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಯಾವ ಜಾತಿ, ಯಾವ ಧರ್ಮದಿಂದ ಬಂದವರು? ಸಿಖ್ಖರಲ್ವಾ? ಸೊ ಸಿಖ್ ಧರ್ಮದವರು ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಬೌದ್ಧ ಧರ್ಮದವರು BP ಸಿಂಗ್ ಕಾಲದಲ್ಲಿ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಕೊಟ್ಟರು, ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್. ಹಿಂದೂ ಧರ್ಮದವರು ನಿಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಪಟ್ಟಿ ಇದ್ರೆ ಒಂದ್ ನಿಮಿಷ ನೋಡಿ, ತೆಗೆದು ನೋಡಿ. ಹಲಾಲ್ಕೋರ್ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಜಾತಿ ಇದೆ, ಹೌದಾ? ಪರಿಶಿಷ್ಟ ಜಾತಿ ಇದೆ. ಅವ್ರು ಹಿಂದೂಗಳ, ಮುಸ್ಲಿಮ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ವಾ? ಸೊ ನೀವು ಹೆಂಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ತೀರಿ ಹಿಂದೂಗಳು ಮಾತ್ರ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತ? ಸೊ ಇವೆಲ್ಲ ನಾನ್ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇರೋದಕ್ಕೆ ನೀವೊಂದು ಸಂಶೋಧನಾ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆ, ಇವುಗಳನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ನೀವು ವಿಶ್ಲೇಷಣೆ ಮಾಡಿ ಅಧ್ಯಯನ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಸಂಶೋಧನೆ ಮಾಡಿ. ಯಾವಾಗ ಪಟ್ಟಿ ಸಿದ್ಧ ಆಯ್ತು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಸಂವಿಧಾನ ಬಂದಾಗಲ್ಲ, ಇದು ಅಸ್ತಿತ್ವಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂದದ್ದು ಮೊಟ್ಟ ಮೊದಲ ಬಾರಿಗೆ. ಪರಿಶಿಷ್ಟ ಜಾತಿಗಳ ಪಟ್ಟಿ ರೆಡಿ ಆಗಿದ್ದು ಯಾವಾಗ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ 1931ನೇ ಇಸ್ವಿಯಲ್ಲಿ. ಯಾರು ಈ ಪಟ್ಟಿಯನ್ನು ತಯಾರಿಸಿದ್ದು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಅಂದಿನ ಸೆನ್ಸಸ್ ಕಮಿಷನರ್ ಹಟ್ಟನ್ ಅಂತ ಒಬ್ರು ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಅಧಿಕಾರಿ. ನಮ್ಮ ಅರ್ಕೇಶ್ ಅವರು ಬೆಳಿಗ್ಗೆ ತಾನೇ ನನಗೆ ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ತಿಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು. He is a well-known anthropologist who is also an administrator, who was an administrator, and he was the census commissioner at that time. The best census conducted in the country is that of Mr. Hutton's census, conducted in the year 1931.
Yes, written caste in India.
Subsequently, he is an authority on castes and tribes. He is an authority on castes. The point I want to tell you is what is castes in the list? He enumerates 9 criteria. 9 ಟೆಸ್ಟ್ಗಳನ್ನು. ನಾನು ಯಾವ ಜಾತಿಗೆ 9 ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನವಗ್ರಹಗಳಿಂದ ಪೀಡಿತವಾಗಿದೆಯೋ ಆ ಜಾತಿಗಳನ್ನ ಪರಿಶಿಷ್ಟ ಜಾತಿಗೆ ಸೇರಿಸಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಏನು ನವಗ್ರಹಗಳು ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ಅವರ ಮಾತಿನಲ್ಲೇ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ದಿ ಡೆಫಿನೇಷನ್ ಟು ಬಿ ಯೂಸ್ ಫಾರ್ ಅರೈವಿಂಗ್ ಅಟ್ ದಿ ಡಿಪ್ರೆಸ್ಡ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸಸ್, ನಾವು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಡಿಪ್ರೆಸ್ಡ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್. ದಿ ಫಾಲೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಟೆಸ್ಟ್. ನಂಬರ್ 1, whether the caste or class in question can be served by Brahmins or not. ಬ್ರಾಹ್ಮಣರು ಈ ಜಾತಿಗಳಿಗೆ ಅವರ ಸೇವೆಯನ್ನ, ಅವ್ರದ್ದು ಸೇವೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಆಗ ಯಾವ್ದಿತ್ತು 100 ವರ್ಷದಿಂದ? ಪೌರೋಹಿತ್ಯ, ಮದುವೆ, ಮುಂಜಿ, ಶವ ಸಂಸ್ಕಾರ ಇಂಥವಕ್ಕೆ ಬರ್ತಾರ. 1ನೇ ಕಾಟ. 2ನೇ ಕಾಟ, whether the caste or class in question can be served by the barbers, by the water carriers, by the tailors who serve the caste Hindus. ಸವರ್ಣೀಯರಿಗೆ ಸೇವೆ ಮಾಡುವಂತಹ ಕ್ಷೌರಿಕರು, ನೀರ್ಗಂಟಿಗಳು, ಅಗಸರು, ಬಡಗಿಗಳು, ದರ್ಜಿಗಳು, ಇವರು ಈ ಜಾತಿಗಳಿಗೂ ಸೇವೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರ? ಮೂರನೇ ಟೆಸ್ಟ್, whether the caste in question pollutes a high caste Hindu by contact or proximity. ಮುಟ್ಟಿದ್ರೆ ಮೈಲಿಗೆ ಆಗುತ್ತಾ? ಮೇಲ್ಜಾತಿಯವರಿಗೆ ಈ ಜಾತಿಗಳನ್ನು ಮುಟ್ಟಿದ್ರೆ ಮೈಲಿಗೆ ಆಗುತ್ತಾ? ಈ ಜಾತಿಗಳ ಹತ್ರ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ಮೈಲಿಗೆ ಆಗುತ್ತಾ? ಕೇರಳದಲ್ಲಿ 24 ಮಾರು ಒಳಗಡೆ ಬಂದ್ರೆ ಮೈಲಿಗೆ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. ಅವ್ರನ್ನ ಪ್ರಾಯ ಅಂತ. ಇವೆಲ್ಲ ಟೆಸ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಅನ್ಟಚಬಿಲಿಟಿ, ಡಿಗ್ರೀಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಅನ್ಟಚಬಿಲಿಟಿ, ಮೋಡ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಅನ್ಟಚಬಿಲಿಟಿ, ಮೆಥಡ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಅನ್ಟಚಬಿಲಿಟಿ. ಓಕೆ, ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್, whether the caste or class in question is one from whose hands the caste Hindu takes water. ಒಬ್ಬ ಮಾದಿಗ ಅಥವಾ ಹೊಲೆಯ ನೀರು ಹಾಕಿದ್ರೆ ಮೇಲ್ಜಾತಿಯವರು ಕುಡಿತಾರ, ಸವರ್ಣೀಯರು ಅದನ್ನ ಆ ನೀರನ್ನ ಮುಟ್ತಾರ, ಕುಡಿತಾರ. ಇದು ಒಂದು ಟೆಸ್ಟ್. Whether the caste or class in question is debarred from using public conveniences like roads, ferries, wells, schools. ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ್ನ ನೀವು ನೋಡಿರ್ತೀರಿ ಇತ್ತೀಚೆಗೆ ಮಹಾನಾಯಕ ಇದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಅವ್ರು ಶಾಲೆಗೆ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ಶಾಲೆಯನ್ನೇ ಬರ್ನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಶಾಲೆಯಿಂದ ಆಚೆಗೆ ಹಾಕ್ತಾರೆ. ಅವರು ಅದನ್ನು ಮೀರಿ ಒಳಗಡೆಗೆ ಹೋಗಿದ್ರಿಂದ ಆ ಶಾಲೆಗೆ ಬೆಂಕಿ ಹಚ್ಚಿ. ಸೊ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣದಿಂದ ವಂಚಿತರಾದ್ರೆ ಈ ಜಾತಿಗಳು ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಆಫ್ ದೇರ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್. ರಸ್ತೆಗಳಿಂದ ಅಥವಾ ನದಿ ದಾಟ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೋ, ಕೆರೆ ದಾಟ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೋ, ಸಾಲ ಇದನ್ನ ದಾಟ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೋ, ದೋಣಿಗಳಿಂದ ವಂಚಿತರಾದ್ರ. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಕ್ವಶನ್, whether the caste or class in question is debarred from the use of Hindu temples, temple entry area, whether in ordinary social intercourse a well-educated member of the caste or class in question will be treated as an equal by high caste men of the same educational qualification. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಮೇಲ್ಜಾತಿಯವನು ಒಬ್ಬ BA ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ, ಈ ಜಾತಿಯವನು ಒಬ್ಬ BA ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ ಇಬ್ಬರನ್ನು ಸಮಾನ ಅಂತ ಪರಿಗಣಿಸ್ತೀರಾ? ಸಮಾಜ ಪರಿಗಣಿಸುತ್ತಾ? ಕ್ಲಾಸಿಕ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಬಾಬಾ ಸಾಹೇಬ್ ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ್. I have not come across another man who is educated in so many subjects, who has got so many doctorates. In 8 subjects he was an authority. Was he considered as an equal with any other barrister? ನನ್ನ ಗುರುಗಳಾದ ಹಾಮೂಲ್ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಒಬ್ಬ ಲಿಂಗಾಯತರು ಕೇಸ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟು, ಅವ್ರ ಎದುರುಗಡೆ ಅವರು ಲಿಂಗಾಯತು, ವಾದಿನೂ ಲಿಂಗಾಯತು, ಪ್ರತಿವಾದಿನೂ ಲಿಂಗಾಯತು, ವಾದಿ ಲಾಯರು ಲಿಂಗಾಯತು. ನನ್ನ ಗುರುಗಳಾದ ಹಾಮೂಲ್ ಅವರು ಬ್ಯಾಡರು, ವಾಲ್ಮೀಕಿ ನಾಯಕರು, ಅವರು ಕೇಸ್ ಕೊಟ್ಬಿಡು. ಎದುರುಗಡೆ ಲಾಯರು ಏನೋ ಹೋಗಿ ಬ್ಯಾಡರ್ ಕೇಸ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ಯಾ, ನಿನ್ಗೆ ಯಾರು ಸಿಗ್ಲಿಲ್ವೇನೋ ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಅವರ ವಿರುದ್ಧ ಇರುವಂತ ಪಾರ್ಟಿನ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೀಯಾಡಿಸ್ತಾರೆ, ಅವಮಾನ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಬಾರ್ ಅಸೋಸಿಯೇಷನ್ ನಡೆದಂತ ಈ ಒಂದು ವರದಿ, ನಮ್ಮ ಗುರುಗಳು ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಸಿಗರೇಟ್ ಸೇರ್ತಾ ನಿಂತಿದ್ರು ಅಂತ ಬಂತದ್ದು. ಅವ್ರು ಹೋಗಿ ಕತ್ತಿನ ಪಟ್ಟಿ ಹಿಡಿದು ಪ್ರತಿವಾದಿ ಲಾಯರ್ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ 2 ಗೂಸ ಇಟ್ಟು, ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಅವ್ರು ಫೈನ್ ತಂದು ಗೂಸ ಇಟ್ಟು ಇನ್ನೊಂದ್ಸಲ ನನ್ನ ಸುದ್ದಿ ಬಂದ್ರೆ ನನಗೆ ಬಿಡೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಚಿತ್ರದುರ್ಗ ಬಾರ್ ಅಸೋಸಿಯೇಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಮಡಿಕೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ನೀರಿಟ್ಟು, ಕುಡಿಯೋ ನೀರು, ಡ್ರಿಂಕಿಂಗ್ ವಾಟರ್, ಅದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ಬರ್ತಿದೆ ಬ್ರಾಹ್ಮಣರಿಗೆ ಮಾತ್ರ. All are advocates, all are practicing advocates in the same court. Every day they are facing each other, they are equals in the profession. Denied thinking. K. Kenchappa anta leader of the opposition ಆದ ನಂತರ ಅವರು ಇವಾಗ ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟೀಸಿಂಗ್ ಅಡ್ವೊಕೇಟ್ ಇನ್ ಚಿತ್ರದುರ್ಗ ಬಾರ್. ಅವರು ಬರೋದು ಬ್ರಾಹ್ಮಣರಿಗೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ಅಂತ ಇದ್ದಿದ್ದನ್ನ ಅವರು ಒಂದು ಚೆಕ್ ಪೀಸ್ ತಗೊಂಡ್ ಬರೋದು, ಬ್ರಾಹ್ಮಣರಿಗೆ ಮೂತ್ರ ಅಂತ. ಬ್ರಾಹ್ಮಣರೇ ಮಡಕೆ ಹೊಡೆದ ಈ ತರ. ನೋಡ, why I am telling you this is not with the object of telling you about a caste or a community, but to tell you that there is no equality just because both have become advocates or both have become IAS officers. Today I have very burning and live stories coming out of judges' chambers. When a judge invites somebody to his house for dinner, and if he happens to be from a lower caste, the upper caste judges don't even go and wish, greet. It may be a marriage, it may be a simple celebration of a birthday, whatever. I have live examples. Even today it is happening. So that was one of the tests. Whether the caste or class in question is merely depressed on account of its own ignorance, its own illiteracy, or its own poverty. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸಮಾಜದಲ್ಲಿ ಅವರು ಸಮಾನತೆ ಕೊಟ್ಟರು ತಮ್ಮ ಕೀಳರಿಮೆಯಿಂದಲೇ ಇವರು ನಾವು ಹಿಂದುಳಿದಿದ್ದೀವಿ ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾರ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ. ವೆದರ್ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಡಿಪ್ರೆಸ್ಡ್ ಆನ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿ ಆಕ್ಯುಪೇಷನ್ ಫಾರ್ವರ್ಡ್, ಇದು ಬಹಳ ವೆರಿ ಕ್ರೂಷಿಯಲ್ ಟೆಸ್ಟ್. ಅವರು ಜಾತಿಯಿಂದ ಮಾಡ್ತಿರುವ ವೃತ್ತಿ, ಚಮ್ಮಾರಿಕೆ ಇರಬಹುದು, ವೃತ್ತಿ ನೀರ್ಗಟ್ಟಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಇರಬಹುದು, ತಳವಾರಿಕೆ ಇರಬಹುದು, ಮಳೆಗಾರನ ಕೆಲಸ ಇರಬಹುದು, ವೃತ್ತಿಯಿಂದ ಅವನನ್ನ ಕೀಳಾಗಿ ನೋಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ದೀಸ್ ಆರ್ ದಿ 9 tests which were employed to enlist the scheduled castes in the year 1931, and the list prepared in the market was later added as the list of scheduled castes appended to the Government of India Act 1935, passed by the British Parliament. That is the list we are now considering as scheduled caste list. I don't want to go into the further details, how it has reached this stage, but this is the foundation. Now, you want to eliminate creamy layer. Are these tests irrelevant today? Will an IAS officer become, even the President of India was thrown out of Jagannath Puri temples? President of India. He was insulted, humiliated, treated as an untouchable. And he is, in fact, by profession, he is an advocate. He was an advocate. So what are you saying by saying that creamy layer among the scheduled castes? Where are you? What tests have you applied to say this? All right. Are you saying that he ceased to be an untouchable? Untouchability is the foundation. Is it your case that he ceased to be an untouchable and therefore he may be taken off from the reserve list? So friends, this was an issue which was not before this court, and Supreme Court has not even found out whether there is due representation to these castes and communities in the list, in the services of the state. How can you declare? Who gave you evidence saying that somebody is deprived of his job opportunities because of this creamy layer? There is no commission. For everything you insist on empirical data. Why did you not demand empirical data for elimination of anybody from the list of reserved castes? So this judgment is flawed, and therefore this August Assembly should debate the efficacy or the tenability of the findings recorded, and what remedial measures should be taken. That is about criminal. Then coming to the subcategorization, I welcome the judgment insofar as it says there is no homogeneous community in the list of scheduled castes. That is writ large. ನಮ್ಮ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದ ಪಟ್ಟಿಯನ್ನು ತೆಗೆದುಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. 101 ಜಾತಿಗಳಿವೆ. 101 ಜಾತಿಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಟಚಬಲ್ಸ್ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಅನ್ಟಚಬಲ್ಸ್. Now, naturally, you cannot say untouchables are equal to touchables. So definitely there is inequality between the touchables and the untouchables. And as you go down the ladder, the hierarchy, as Baba Sahib Ambedkar has said, this is a ladder of graded inequality, ascending order of ರೆವರೆನ್ಸ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಆಟೋಮೆಟಿಕ್ ಆಗಿ ಅವನು ಪವಿತ್ರ ಮನುಷ್ಯ ಆಗ್ತಾನೆ, ಶ್ರೇಷ್ಠ ಮನುಷ್ಯ ಆಗ್ತಾನೆ. And descending order of contempt, ascending order of reverence, descending order of contempt. This is how he has described Hindu society. So that is true of the scheduled castes also. If there are 101 castes, there are 101 hierarchies, 101 status, ranks in the list of scheduled. So definitely you cannot say it is homogeneous. It is a heterogeneous society. And therefore it has to be divided. Now, on what criteria it should be divided? I want political scientists, anthropologists, social scientists to put your heads together, debate, discuss, and evolve the criteria of categorization of the schedule. It is not a simple issue. I will tell you, it is a very, very complicated issue. Do you go by education? Do you go by representation in services? Do you go by untouchability? Do you go by their occupation? It is a vexed question. It's a very, very complex question. And therefore, this issue has to be taken up by the academics like you, research scholars like you, maybe every one of the possible criteria should be considered on its own merit to be a factor to this. And second most important thing is, I welcome the judgment insofar as it gives the power to the state governments to classify. Now, classification is limited only for purposes of education under Article 15(4) or for services under 16(4) of the state. One issue which the Supreme Court did not address, maybe it has to be addressed. State governments are also providing reservation to scheduled castes in Gram Panchayats, in Taluk Panchayats, in Jilla Panchayats. There also categorization has to be done. That issue is not addressed. So what criteria? So in my very considered opinion, there should be separate lists. One list of categorized scheduled castes for 15(4), another list for 16(4), and altogether different list for Articles 243D, that is reservation in panchayats, and 243D, reservation in municipalities and urban local bodies. So how do you achieve this? Because it's a very, very complicated exercise. So the first and foremost thing, the center should come forward and do two things. Number one, by the 102nd Amendment, backward classes were given the constitutional status and they were put on par with the scheduled castes. Like 341, Article 342 capital A provided for enlisting the backward classes. Then came Maratha reservation, which provided 13% for Maratha. This was struck down by the Supreme Court on the ground. Under 342A, state governments have no power to classify backward classes. So immediately, by the 105th Amendment, the Constitution was again amended. And 342A has a special provision which says the list under 342A(1) is the list only for the central services, not for state services. And clause 3 is added, by which state governments are given exclusive power to have their own list of backward classes for purposes of reservation. under the state services under the state. So a similar exercise is needed now in the light of the judgment to amend Article 341 for scheduled castes, 342 for scheduled tribes, to say that so far as the states are concerned, they may have a categorized scheduled caste list for purposes of this thing. My learned friend, Mr. Rakesh, who is an authority on castes and tribes, he says this is not to be confused with revision of the list of scheduled castes. Categorization happens only within the already identified classes or the castes and tribes. No list, no new caste or tribe will be added. No existing caste or tribe will be deleted. So for this limited purpose, the constitution needs to be amended, and more importantly, now it is being talked about that the census is diminished. The government of India should restore caste census to its original position as it was done in the year 1931. Government of India should collect full data about every caste and community and tribe in this country, so that we have the exact population figure of every caste. We have the empirical data as to their representation in the professions as advocates, doctors, engineers, their representation in services, KAS, IAS, IPS, like this, we will have this, and we will also have the data about their participation in political power. So this data has to be collected by the government of India. That is, I throw up this issue for consideration of this assembly by debating. And so far as the state governments are concerned, if the government of India does not embark on a caste census, every state government should embark on a caste census. Here, I would like to sound a bit of caution. You must have seen 3 days ago, all over India, categorization has been opposed. In one voice, the entire North India, 25 political parties joined together to say there should be no categorization. That is not good. In South India, situation is different, because North India does not have the kind of incidence of inequality that exists in the South among the scheduled castes. By and large, they are dominated by one caste or the other, like Chamans. So therefore, the issue is complex. It varies from state to state. Just because it was opposed in the north, the South Indian governments should not hesitate to embark on this thing. They can, because this is a burning issue in South India, whether it is in Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu. And Tamil Nadu has already accomplished it. Left hand, right hand, left hand, they call it as Arundhatiyas. Jason is here, I don't want to go into the details, he is an expert, he will give you the details. So also the Andhra experiment, Dr. Chinnarao is here, he will give you. What they have done in Punjab, I will tell you in a minute. There, the scheduled castes are divided into two categories. Category A, Category B. Category B consists of two castes only. I think out of 36 or 36 castes. That is Majhabi Sikhs and Ramdasi. Majhabi Sikhs and Valmiki, sorry. Yeah. So they are given preferential treatment. That was under challenge before this one. In Haryana, it happened in 94. Out of 76 castes, I think 6 castes were separated. And the reservation was vertically divided 50-50. So that there is no encroachment by one group or the other. And that reservation was under challenge before the Honorable Supreme Court from Haryana. So Arundhati issue was also there. Of course, these cases are not decided. They will go back to the division bench. Now, broadly, these principles are laid down that there can be categorization. The states have the power to categorize, and therefore they will go before the appropriate benches for a decision. So, Snehitare, this is the current position. I'm sorry, I overshot my time. There is so much to say. I'm sure in the discussions you will be discussing all these issues and take a decision. Should there be categorization in Karnataka? If so, what should be the foundation or the basis or the criteria for categorizing? So this is a very, very complicated issue. I want you to put your heads together, discuss, debate, and decide on a course of action. Maybe it needs a bigger study. Maybe it needs a bigger exercise. At any rate, data must be collected. That is what the Supreme Court says. Empirical data is a must. Maybe the government will be well advised to appoint one more commission to go into this question because we don't have the data today. All the information collected either by Sadashiva Commission or later by Kantaraju Commission, they have already become obsolete. So it is, and above all, one ಮಾತು ನಾನು ಹೇಳಿದ ನವಗ್ರಹ ಪೀಠಗಳೇನಿದ್ವಲ್ಲ ಅವತ್ತು ಈ ಜಾತಿಗಳನ್ನ ಪಟ್ಟಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು. That itself has undergone a sea change. Should you still hang on to that? But that's a bigger question. May ultimately lead to. So jati janaganati ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ it will throw up so much data for you to embark upon a study on all these issues. So I suggest both the center and the states should collect this empirical data, contemporaneous empirical data about every caste and community. That will throw light to the issue of categorization. So thank you very much. I am honored to inaugurate this debate. I once again congratulate for Research Center for taking it. Thank you. ಈಗ ಚರ್ಚೆಗೆ ಪ್ರತ್ಯೇಕವಾದಂತಹ ಇದು
ಪ್ರಕರಣಗಳನ್ನು ಮತ್ತು ಆಯೋಗಗಳನ್ನು ಹಾಗೂ ನಿದರ್ಶನಗಳನ್ನು ಉಲ್ಲೇಖಿಸಿ ಮೀಸಲಾತಿಯ ಸಾಧಕಗಳು ವರ್ಗೀಕರಣದ ಬಾಧಕಗಳನ್ನ ಕುರಿತಂತೆ ಅನೇಕ ಘಟಕಾಂಶಗಳನ್ನ ನಮ್ಮ ಮುಂದೆ ದಾಖಲಿಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವರಿಗೆ ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ ರವಿವರ್ಮ ಕುಮಾರ್ ಸರ್ ಅವರಿಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ನಿಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರ ಪರವಾಗಿ, ಮೈಸೂರು ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾಲಯದ ಪರವಾಗಿ ಹಾಗೂ ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ್ ಕೇಂದ್ರದ ಪರವಾಗಿ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳನ್ನ ಅರ್ಪಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಮುಕ್ತ ಸಂವಾದ ನಂತರ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. Now, Professor L. Jawahar Nesal sir is the coordinator of the high-level committee to formulate our vision, state education policy for Tamil Nadu. Now, a request to talk about the Tamil Nadu model. Please, sir.
dear brothers and sisters, and the organizing committee of this great event, and Ravinodra Kumarji, who has delivered a wonderful inaugural speech, and other distinguished members, speakers, scholars, faculty members, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. As Mr. Ravi Vermakumarji highlighted, it's a very complicated, controversial topic. It varies from states to state and varies within the state as well. In some parts of the states, some communities designated as scheduled caste are not scheduled caste in the same state. In other parts, there are some instances we can quote. But it has got the glimpse of the whole Indian society, and even more than the scheduled caste, the backward class communities and forward caste are debating more on this, because there is a connectivity between the recent verdict given by the Supreme Court on the 1st August 2024 with reference to the overall states of the communities in the total Indian society. So that means it has triggered a great interest because everyone has a stake in it, and it has to be discussed, debated in all respects. I'm hailing from a state, Tamil Nadu, which is known, as you all understand, for social justice. Whether we have achieved social justice in Tamil Nadu or not, but it is the state that always deliberated the issue of social justice, reservation, affirmative actions. And it has initiated a number of schemes, action points, laws, legislations, in ensuring at least attempting to achieve social justice. And I'm very much pleased to be a part of this event today. And I must thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity. Had I not participated today, I would have regretted why I was not part of this event. Because I've been discussing this all around the world, right from United Nations conferences till at the bottommost layer in regional level. I've been discussing this issue for the last 25 years, 30 years. And about 25 years ago, I came out with a document titled Preferential Participation. I was interrogating the philosophy and concept of reservation and thought that and questioned whether it is enough or not. Then after a series of investigations, observations, and analysis, it was my conviction that there must be something called preferential participation in all opportunities that exist in this country in a caste-ridden society. The essence is socialize the opportunities, whether it is public sector, private sector, government, non-government, economic sector, trade, this, that, everywhere. Socialize the opportunities. That was the greater thing. So in that book, I argued a lot of viewpoints that I feel that still stands today. It's more relevant to today's verdict of the Supreme Court. On that account, it is very much significant for me to be present here to say some words, sometimes which is highly critical and I feel eccentrical to the generic widespread opinion that it generated, the recent court verdict had generated all around India. But I don't worry about it. It's just a debate. And we have to express all the pros and cons. So then I have to as well. My views today might be looking something eccentrical, but I expect the fellow citizens of this country to debate about it and reject it in case if it is illogical and unlawful. So that is the prior request that I would like to submit before this audience. So the Tamil Nadu is one of the first states in this country, and it is the only state in the country that secured 69% reservation, beyond the bar, 50% bar ruled by the Supreme Court. You should have noticed the hardships and the voice of the Tamil Nadu people behind achieving this 69% reservation, which cannot be touched now time being by the Supreme Court, because it has been enacted in the schedule, 9th schedule. So the Supreme Court will not talk about it. But the Supreme Court doesn't like it. The judiciary doesn't like it. In case if there is a 100% proportionate representation for all people in all opportunities, that is another dimension, which Supreme Court would not like it. Which Supreme Court, the judiciary would not, would oppose it. Now the Supreme Court's hands are tired. And the Supreme Court cannot question the 69% reservation time being unless the parliament interferes and alters it. Whether it's possible or not, we don't know. It's the will of the political sector and the people of the country. So Tamil Nadu secured 69%, why not others? And what had happened to Chennai's case in Andhra Pradesh? And Sir has been listing out what had happened in Punjab, why it was rejected then. And now what made the Supreme Court now to come out with a verdict in favor of subcaste reservation and also a recommendation for creamy layer. This shows the judiciary is unreliable. And consistently, if you notice the history of India on reservation, the issue of reservation, the judiciary was not consistent, always fluctuating with opposing ends. One bench would say it is homogeneous, another bench would say heterogeneous. In just a matter of 10, 20 years. Another 20 years, 10 years, the same judiciary might come out and say that it is homogeneous. It is just a matter of interpretation. And when the Supreme Court and judiciary doesn't have the will, so moto, to bring to the notice of, to bring out the reality, where most of the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe people are underrepresented even within the provision of the reservation, even though the reservation is existing now, except the D. You see the A, B, C category of the creamy jobs, authorities and powerful positions and decision-making positions in this country. Even till today, underrepresented. But the Supreme Court has now come out so moto. It recommends creamy layer. suggestion, not a verdict. But why not the Supreme Court, so moto, come out, take note of this, and make a recommendation to ensure immediate 100%, reservation? It would not, because the judiciary lacks the will, the wisdom, and it is not inclined always to genuinely implement a reservation. Sir has mentioned Article 335. The claim, okay, at least it had happened now. We welcome it. The meritocracy is now for time being again, the Supreme Court had rejected. But the Tamil Nadu case, I would like to bring it because it was in the year 2009, subcategorization. It was not subcategorization, it was subcaste reservation for Arundhatiya community, the equivalent of Madigas. And Arundhatiya means they are known in different names: Chakliyar, Arundhatiya, Madari, Pagadai. And these are all the other names of Arundhatiya community. In 2009, it was offered subcaste reservation, 3%, based on a one-member committee, Janardhan Committee's recommendation. The Janardhan Committee recommendation was submitted in the year 2008 and 2009, it was enacted. The reason for subcaste reservation, the Janardhan Committee highlighted, emphasized, was two. There were two reasons. One is these two communities, the Arundhatiya community and the non-Arundhatiya subcaste in the scheduled caste. The non-Arundhatiya are Parayas, Pallas, Adi Dravidas. These are the non-Arundhatiya. They are considered as progressive subcaste in scheduled caste. Arundhatiya, of course, underrepresented, underperforming in jobs, employment, and education. It is the fact. So the reasons quoted for subcaste reservation rendered to Arundhatiya community were two. One is discrimination. Discrimination in representation, in jobs, employment, and education. And the other one is untouchability. Among the subgroup untouchabilities, so between the Adi Dravida and Palla on one hand, and the Arundhatiya on the other hand, the report commented that there existed untouchability. And because of that untouchability, there were discriminations in the representation, in Arundhatiya's representation in jobs and employment and education. So the state interfered and enacted the law. So now the last 10 years, I think 14 years, the 3% reservation, subcaste reservation is in Tamil Nadu existing. So Tamil Nadu, you look at the reservation in terms of reservation. It first constituted the backward commission, ever first in the country, long back. It took all measures. And the first time, BC Christian reservation, BC Muslim reservation, and it also attempted to give reservation to rural people, and that was struck down by the court. In all manners, in all respect, they tried to at least address, to alleviate the problem of underrepresentation of the affected communities in employment and education. But my question is now, very particular about the untouchability within the scheduled caste. The dynamics, the intensity of the untouchability that existed as claimed by the reports that exist among the subcaste in the scheduled caste is the same as the untouchability that exists between the scheduled caste and the non-scheduled caste. This is what I would like to interrogate. And the Supreme Court, the judiciary, and even the Janathan Committee constituted by the government of Tamil Nadu also failed to establish this, to distinguish between the untouchability between the scheduled caste and non-scheduled caste, and untouchability between among the subcaste and the scheduled caste. This is very important point. If you fail to distinguish these two differences, that means you're making a grave mistake, and you are diluting the concept of reservation and the philosophy of reservation. My just observation after the 1st August 2024 verdict of Supreme Court, just only hardly 3 weeks now. You go to Tamil Nadu and ask any Arundhatiya community, randomly you ask them, who is responsible for their underperformance in jobs, employment, and education? You ask them. They wouldn't say the caste order. They wouldn't say the upper caste Hindus. They wouldn't say the Brahmins. They would simply say it is Adi Dravida and Paraya and Palla. Whatever this country in the last 75, 77 years of independence couldn't achieve had been achieved by the recent Supreme Court verdict. Caste enmities between the subcaste, among the subcaste and the scheduled caste, divide and rule. How are you going to address this? How to educate all subcaste and the scheduled caste that your perpetrator is the caste order created by Brahmanism, Sanatana Dharma, Varnashrama Dharma, and so on. It is not your Paraya, your Kali. It is not happening. It would happen in Andhra Pradesh, in Karnataka, between the left and right. Are the Andhra, Valaya? Sure, it is going to happen. Please wait. Unless you clear the air legally, philosophically, conceptually, among the subcaste of scheduled caste in this country, the subcaste reservation should be, it's very sensitive and it has to be properly handled. So again, coming back to the 2 points on which the Janathan Committee has recommended 3% reservation for Arundhati in Tamil Nadu. Let us take that. The same concurs with the Supreme Court verdict now. The Supreme Court had said there is no homogeneity. Why there is a need for Supreme Court now all of a sudden to just come after 70 years of independence now to observe and to discover that there is no homogeneity and only heterogeneity among subcaste and scheduled caste? Doesn't the Supreme Court understand? Doesn't it have the wisdom to read properly the Article 366? The 366 define what is scheduled caste. And it is a mixture of tribes, various tribes. It says, the keywords I'm quoting now. Caste, tribes. These are the races. These are the three keywords. When you say that tribes and the term caste and race with the different cultural manifestations, identities, social identities, linguistic identities, and so many other identities across this country, the Constitution itself, when it was framed, the 366 agrees that it is not homogeneous. So the Supreme Court doesn't have to altogether come now and say that it is heterogeneous. It is already heterogeneous. It is not homogeneous by the definition of the 366. So that means, then why there was a need to classify scheduled castes as one group, a solid group. Sir Ravi was, he quoted highlighted very clearly the 9 criteria to claim them as the depressed communities in 1935, based on the 1931 survey. They found that these are the 9 criteria based on which they were considered as depressed. And on that social depression, based on the social depression, they were considered as homogeneous. They were considered homogeneous, that's why they were called the scheduled caste. It is a forum of different communities and castes across, but they share the same fate of the worst fate of caste system, untouchability, social impediments, social disabilities. And these social disadvantages and social disabilities they faced in the hands of the caste order and perpetrated by the upper caste Hindus or the Brahmins or whoever at the top, they were not able to access the opportunities. Because of that, there must be a reservation in opportunities, at least in the government. So as I said, it is not unemployment alleviation program. We agree with that. But why there is unemployment, more unemployment and underrepresentation in judiciary, in many other avenues for the scheduled caste? It is because the caste, the sufferings, the disabilities, the disadvantages, the social depressions caused by the caste system is the prime root cause for underrepresentation of the scheduled caste communities in all opportunities. On that account, we are homogeneous. So when Supreme Court quickly jumped into conclusion to say that it is heterogeneous, were there any data based on which the Supreme Court had to conclude this? What is the data? Were there any commissions recently done to ensure after 75 years of independence that these are all heterogeneous groups? Any data? Like the one they had done in 1931. Among the scheduled caste I'm talking about. No data to validate the recent verdict of the Supreme Court. But the Supreme Court is right. It is heterogeneous. But I say it is homogeneous in the sense that in the face of the caste order causing social depressions and social disadvantages, disabilities, these indigent groups, the social groups in scheduled caste, are prevented from availing the opportunities, accessing the opportunities, both employment and education. Now, again, I'm coming back to the Janardhan Committee now. The Janardhan Committee said, okay, all these 9 criteria of depressed community shows untouchability, concentrates around untouchability. And the Janardhan Committee come out with an idea that there is an untouchability exists among the scheduled caste in Tamil Nadu. If it really is so, we welcome it. Wherever there is untouchability exists within the scheduled caste or between the other scheduled caste and other caste, there must be reservation. There is no question about it. But you read the Janardhan Committee, it's a 1-member committee. It was not based on any survey, as they have surveyed in 1931. It was not based on 9 criteria, as Sir has recited now. Here and there, the hearsay, the committee received information from interacting with some casually with some stakeholders. and come out with a decision that there is untouchability between Arundhatiya community and Adi Dravida community. How can I believe that? But I stand with the Arundhatiya community. I support. If they are treated with untouchability, they deserve reservation. There is no question about it. But the question now in Tamil Nadu, the Janathan committee says the second point is discrimination. Discrimination and the caste system, if you equate, it is not the discrimination facing the black community in the United States of America. It is a racial issue. It is an economic issue there. In Malaysia, the Bumiputra model, it is an economic model of reservation. In the United States, it is a racial model between the blacks and whites. But in India, it's the caste model. If there is a discrimination, it must be based on the caste model. There are many other aspects which may have the side effects like economic disparities and social disparities. These are all many other side effects, the parameters that will cause discrimination. But overall, the main cause of discrimination in this country, wherever you approach for opportunities, it is because of the caste system. And the caste system is, posing untouchability, and this untouchability prevents the indignant affected community from accessing the opportunities, from connecting socially to access the opportunities. It is a research. It is not by word. In India, if a Brahmin community is enjoying all jobs in this country, most of the opportunities, more than 80% of the opportunities, both economy, education, everything, it is because of the social connect. It is a researched observation, investigated scientifically. The social connectivity makes them, enables them to access the opportunities. So what makes them to get that social connectivity to access the opportunities and avoid the opportunities? It is the caste privilege. The privilege and privacy they get in the caste order makes them to go with connect socially in reaching and accessing the opportunities, the jobs, employment, everywhere. So that means, again, the caste is the main issue. In socially connecting to the opportunities. Why the Supreme Court is not talking about this? Can any glimpse, a small iota of the essence of what I'm talking about? Don't you think that the Supreme Court judges have the wisdom to talk about this so moto? Because every time the Supreme Court would come so moto and talk this and impose this, that, and everything. Why they are not talking this? So the Janathan Committee in Tamil Nadu, based on the two things, untouchability that existed, it claimed it existed among the subcaste and scheduled caste. And because of the discrimination, they were underrepresented. The Arundhatiyas were underrepresented in all opportunities, employment and education. So the question now here is, did the Janathan Committee investigate the discrimination that was causing underrepresentation of Arundhatiya community was caused by untouchability of the non-SC communities or untouchability of the subcaste within the scheduled caste? Were there any data, studies, observations? No. So it blindly came out with an idea. There was an untouchability. That too, it was not properly surveyed. Statistically, it was not proved. Scientifically, it was not studied. And overall, it came out with an idea by hearsay. There is untouchability. But the intensity and dynamics of untouchability among the scheduled caste subcaste is the same, impeding the affected community subcaste in the scheduled caste from accessing jobs or not. Or is it other way around? It could have been caused by the upper caste untouchability as well. Why the Supreme Court is not considering this issue? So that means the caste identity, discrimination, and the subcaste reservation should be seen together to understand the philosophy of reservation. It is not just simply by looking at the representation in jobs. Looking at the representation in jobs caused by untouchability and the caste inabilities, social inabilities, the disabilities, caused by the upper caste Hindus, was the major prime motive behind the constitution makers when they started implementing reservation, including the provision for reservation. And when the constitution was framed, the backward class constitution, the backward class reservation was not the mandate. Later on, at the will of this nation and politics and people, we found that the backward class was also affected because of the caste system. So now it is there. And that too, it is off-baked with the creamy part, non-creamy part, and all nonsense. But the question is, at the time of framing the constitution, the issue was untouchability, social disabilities, disadvantages caused by the caste system in the form of untouchability is the prime cause for underrepresentation of scheduled caste. And the homogeneity was always socially depressed in the same intensity, with same dynamics, with same, shape and form. So there was no need for subcaste reservation at that time, when the constitution was made. But if somebody now prescribes subcaste reservation, they must come out now with all authenticated data, survey, and you prove. Every time this issue of the reservation goes to before the judiciary comes immediately come out and say that this is a useless lot and there is no merit in it. And it leads to inefficiency in administration and so on. All reasons were interpreted mainly, only by the judiciary. That means judiciary is, it is the people of India should have the will to discuss, debate, and come out with our own, assertion on this matter. That's why we need more debates. See, let us take discrimination in the Janardhan Committee. The Janardhan Committee highlighted all areas, A, B, C, D category of jobs in government, and also in education, reservation in education, for Arundhati Committee. And the record shows the Arundhati Committee was underperforming in both education and government services. And immediately the committee concluded it is discrimination. Who is discriminating? The progressive community in the scheduled caste is discriminating against them. What is the connectivity between the discrimination and the underrepresentation of the affected subcommunity in the scheduled caste? I saw two things in the discrimination: unintended discrimination and intended discrimination. I want to distinguish between this. The unintended discrimination could be there because if you treat equally the unequals, by itself, by the virtue of treating the unequals equally, you cause discrimination. That is what's happening in the United States, in Britain, in Australia, where the positive discrimination is introduced, diversity in UK, and the equality opportunity in America. All these models are, unintended discrimination. So if a scheduled caste subcaste, a progressive scheduled caste subcaste, is enjoying more benefits as opposed to the affected underrepresented subcaste in the scheduled caste, it is unintended. That is the assertion. You can dispute and agree or disagree. Because both of them are facing untouchability and the wrath of the social system of this country by the same perpetrators, same oppressors and suppressors. When these two people are facing the social oppression and suppression in the hands of the same upper caste, the intention, the progress of some X caste as opposed to the Y caste within the same scheduled caste is unintended. But there is a discrimination. And there is underrepresentation. There must be solution to resolve it. Surely, if there is a Balaya or Adi, Andhra, whoever here, any community in the scheduled caste are fighting for, it is not intended. If anyone is progressive, it is not at the cost of the failure of the others. There are many other reasons for the progressiveness among the scheduled caste. It is not because of the scheduled caste untouchability, even if untouchability is proved there. But if untouchability is proved there, and it causes any social disconnect, and because of that they are underrepresented, some communities underrepresented, there must be exclusive reservation. That is the point I would like to submit before you. But if there is no proven untouchability, and there are differences and discriminations in accessing jobs and opportunities, it is unintended, the discrimination is unintended. Thought that reservation, exclusive reservation is not the solution simply. Because if you allow this to happen, the creamy layer will come after 20 years and 10 years. Somebody will come. A judiciary in the Supreme Court, they would say that, hey, see, we have seen 80, 90 years of independent India. So you have to now apply creamy layer now. They would say, because the dilution of the scheduled caste reservation is mainly based on the concept of the economic basis. It is a social reservation, affirmative actions, and they were designated as depressed communities or scheduled caste because of socialness, not on the basis of the economy, the economic conditions. Of course, economic condition is a tangible factor. We have to address that. But the prime cause is the social order. So in this case, our question now is, if in case the untouchability or any discrimination that happens among the subcaste, if it is unintended discrimination, there must be a solution, X or Y, whatever we can come up with. The Janardhan committee suggested 3 solutions. It did not outright, recommended 3% reservation, exclusive reservation to subcaste. But the Janardhan committee also proposed another model, preferential allotment, as one of the solutions. So in the case of unintended discrimination that happens among the subcaste in the scheduled caste, if you adopt preferential allotment, not exclusive reservation. Preferential allotment is not just simply an affirmative action, please. Affirmative action is giving a fair opportunity, ensuring fairness in accessing availing opportunities. That is affirmative action. Whereas here, preferential allotment is not exclusive reservation, but it is a kind of reservation until this affected community is elevated to the level of the progressive community, it must be there. That has a different connotations and pros and cons, which we are not going to discuss now. So that means the issue here is order and the upper caste Brahminical, notion that drives the society to be underrepresented, the affected communities, scheduled caste or backward class, whatever. So that means the intended discrimination caused by the caste order by the non-scheduled caste plays no major role in underrepresentation of the affected scheduled caste communities. For instance, let me make it very simple. Forget this scheduled caste reservation in government sector. Take the private sector. 99% opportunities, employment opportunities, lies in the private hands. How many scheduled caste, progressive scheduled caste are getting opportunities? What is the proportion of the progressive scheduled caste communities opportunities in the private sector? You look at the history, the data, negligible. In the year 2018-19, I think in the parliament, the Minister of Social Justice, and Empowerment, he released saying that the statistics, only 6 vice chancellors belonging to scheduled caste in the whole country. And in the entire judiciary, about handful of a dozen judges in the higher courts, apex courts, in the history of India. Supreme Court, Chandrachud would not talk about it. You look at coming to the point. The point is, the scheduled caste, like say in Tamil Nadu, Adi Dravida Pallar, they are all progressive according to Janathan Committee. Progressive where? In competing for a minuscule of the proportion of the job, 1% job in the government, when the 99% jobs are outside in the private. So in the private, if they are progressive, if Pallar, Parayar, Adi Dravida, the progressives of caste in Tamil Nadu are progressive, designated as progressive, they must have progressed as industrialists. And they must have progressed in availing private sector jobs. How many of them are business leaders? Scheduled caste. The progressive scheduled caste subcommunities I'm talking about. This indicates that the intended discrimination caused by the caste order is still prevailing. How do you say that they are progressed now? The whole India now is talking about scheduled caste. The progressive, some communities of, progressive communities of the scheduled caste have progressed like Brahmins. I hue and cry all around this country. If they are progressive, they should have progressed in the private sector. 0%. The World Inequality Report says 10%, the top 10% of the people of this country enjoys 65% of the wealth of this country. World Inequality Report. It doesn't lie. The bottom 50% of the population of this country is enjoying only 6% of the wealth of this country. Another statistics of the same report. Top 10% of the people of this country are enjoying 57% of the income of this country through jobs, through business, by all means. And the bottom 50% of the population of this country are enjoying only 13% of the income all over India. So can we say that the value of this community in Karnataka is progressive, has progressed now, and achieved and took part in the top 10%, who is enjoying 65% of the wealth of this country? And Adi Dravida community from Tamil Nadu is in the top 10% enjoying 65% of the wealth of this country? Can the Supreme Court take note of this? In declaring that they are progressive, comparative progressiveness should not be the yardstick among the scheduled caste. You compare the progressiveness of the subcaste in the scheduled caste with the upper caste and Brahmins in this country. But you wouldn't dare to do it. You wouldn't dare to do it. You are designating X, Y, somebody with all this ditching, with all these social oppressions and suppressions. You think that they had a clear catwalk a red carpet welcome in progressing themselves in jobs and employment and education. That is what the narrative created by Supreme Court's order now. And Janathan Committee also did the same thing. It is the fate of this country. The judiciary, even though it has the wisdom, it doesn't have the inclination to take stock of all factors, all relevant, issues in making a decision. It is not just a simple interpretation of Article 335 or 366 or 341. Who cares about this? It is subject to modification. If you, me, and the will of the people say so, we can modify it. These people sitting there as judges are just simply interpreters. They are not the socialists. They don't understand the pain of the scheduled caste. How dare you say that some community among the scheduled caste is progressive and somebody else is not progressive? Both are not progressive. But comparatively, somebody is progressive among the scheduled caste. Was it because of the clearance given by the caste order and the privileges given by the caste order? Or did they face social oppressions and suppressions in availing opportunities? If Adi Dravida or Pallar community is progressive in Tamil Nadu, did they easily get that progressiveness? They also faced social suppressions, oppressions. Even today, the caste symptoms, oppressions, and untouchabilities are the highest in India is Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu was a land of social justice, but equally, it is the highest. Honor killing, still there. So beyond all these social suppressions and oppressions, some community among the scheduled caste is progressive. It is not because of their social privilege. There are many other reasons. But if somebody, X or Y, the colleague among the same scheduled caste is underperforming, it must be addressed, alleviated. There must be a solution. The solution is not exclusive reservation, subcaste reservation. It shouldn't, because it damages and it nullifies the very fundamental basis characters on which they were considered as scheduled caste. Historically, gradually, incrementally, after 10 years or 20 years, this will be completely negated. It's aiming to negate the fundamental reason upon which reservation as a concept was established in the Constitution. So that means we have to find out how to address it if it is not through exclusive reservation. I can quote the Janathan Committee. The Janathan Committee also quoted preferential allotment. It's a form of reservation, but it's not exclusive reservation. So now the Arundhati community is seeing the Adi Dravida community in Tamil Nadu as its enemy, as the cause for their underrepresentation. The same will happen in Karnataka, in Andhra, in Uttar Pradesh. I'm worried more about the philosophy of education rather than the constitution of this country providing reservation through several clauses and articles. Because if the philosophy of the reservation is diluted, the provisions in the Constitution will not mean anything. It will be subject to modification later based on the new invented philosophy, the creamy layer. The creamy layer has now been recommended. It will become a law after 10 years, 20 years. It is the first step now. Subcaste reservation is the first step. So subcaste reservation, if it is not based on the untouchability among the scheduled caste, then it is based on what? Based on employment, educational opportunities. And if it is simply based on the representation in opportunities, is it amounting to the social depression or not? Or is it because of the social depression or because of some other reasons? If scheduled caste is not able to access jobs, it is because of the caste. If somebody within the scheduled caste is not able to achieve the same opportunities as somebody else in the same scheduled caste, then it is because of many reasons, not simply because of the caste discrimination among them. It must be discussed. This is the single point agenda in my interrogation of the recent verdict of the Supreme Court today. This is the single interrogation I would like the citizens, the fellow citizens of this country to ponder over. Because this is the crux of the matter upon which we should come out with some ideas and solutions. But there shall not be any, we should not shy away from addressing, elevating, uplifting our fellow subcaste in the same scheduled caste. There must be a solution. Say, one thing is, let us take the models. I would conclude, I think, in another few minutes. The models of Malaysia, say, compare the United States model and Malaysian model. Malaysian model is not based on caste discrimination or class discrimination. It is simply a matter of representation. At the time of independence in Malaysia, the Malay people who constituted about 35–40% of the population, and Chinese about 30–32% population, Indian ethnic origin about 12–15% population, the three major communities. The Bhumiputra, the real Bhumiputra, the landowners are variously, they are just 1 or 2%. But the Bhumiputra people, the Malay people, are called the Bhumiputra, and they came from Indonesia, long back before Indians and Chinese, settled there. And because they claim they are Bhumiputra. So the Bhumiputra model was not based on caste, not based on social order, because all three are different communities. But in such situation, the model, the intervention should be something like, preferential model, not an exclusive reservation model. But you go to any sector. You want to start a small business. You want to establish a private limited company, public limited company, a bunk shop. You want to establish jobs in private and government everywhere. You should ensure 40% reservation for Malay people. Even if you go for private sector reservation, private company establishment, private limited, you must have the state's share, 40% share for the Malay people. It is everywhere. Why the Supreme Court is not taking note of this? Why not Sumoto come out with its own recommendations? Why not like Malaysia? Okay, the scheduled caste people are underrepresented in private sector. And why not we give anybody who goes for private sector, private limited company registration, you should ensure beforehand 40% reservation. Share, 40% share for the Malay people. Why not the scheduled caste gets 25% share in all private limited companies? Imagine, can it happen in this country? That is the true representation, because the Supreme Court is very much worried about representation, under-representation of the subcaste and the scheduled caste. So the total scheduled caste is 100%, not 100%, 0% participation in non-governmental sectors. And government is downsizing the opportunities. We are all, of course, fighting for nothing, because there is no job in the government. Everything, even the army will be privatized. Railway is privatized. There will be no reservation. But we are fighting for nothing now. That is one thing. But we cannot leave it. But we should fight for more. That moreness is in the private sector. Let us extend this to private sector. In all private sector, private limited company registration, entrepreneurship, proprietor registration, bunk shop, business, the trade, everywhere there must be reservation. or you call it like reservation or, preferential participation, whatever. That is what I said 25 years ago. There must be preferential, participation for all walks of life in this country. And VP Singh heeded my idea, and he discussed and he wanted to promote it and take it further. But before that, he died. So this is one dimension. The other dimension is that overall, the problem that we face in this country in terms of reservation should be considered as right, not enabling thing. Can the Supreme Court come now and say that it is not an enabling mechanism, but it is the right to participate? Reservation should be redesignated, redrafted in the Constitution, redefined in a way that it is the right of the affected communities, underrepresented communities, in participating in opportunities, in building this nation, by serving all aspects of this nation, both private and public. So that means we have a long way to fight and restore and ensure in different terms and different dimensions that we lacked so far in terms of reservation. And reservation should be considered not as an enabling factor to access opportunities, but it should be a fundamental right factor to access and avail opportunities. That's what we have to fight for. If there is any disparities in opportunities, in accessibilities, in representations among the scheduled caste subcaste, there must be a solution. If there is an untouchability among them, there must be exclusive reservation. I agree with the Supreme Court. They are not homogeneous. But if there is no practice of untouchability among the scheduled caste subcaste, then that must be the result. The result and the solution must be something preferential allotment, preferential treatment, not affirmative. That also a kind of reservation. Otherwise, the voice and solidarity of the scheduled caste will be lost, and they will be divided based on the divide and rule. They will be segregated at one point of time. They will not be voice for their rights in the future. So that's why, my fellow citizens, through you, I talk to the fellow citizens of this country. Please understand the dynamics, the concept, the philosophy of reservation, and accordingly take a side. And let us debate more and more. I could be wrong by saying all these things, but I welcome debates, opposing views. Let us deliberate again and again until we saturate with the right perspective that takes the scheduled caste ahead, scheduled tribe ahead, while the caste system still prevails in this country. Untouchability is rising, is on the rise. So please think about it and let us discuss again. And I request all participants, all members of this country to discuss and debate extensively. That is the request, the final request I would like to call upon you. And I would like to thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity. My views were a little bit eccentrical, but it is not conclusive. I expressed my views for us to think and debate. Otherwise, mine is not conclusive. So with this note, I thank all of you for this opportunity.
I would like to heartily thank Professor Jawahar Nason sir, who presented the reservation and categorization in Tamil Nadu model with excellent thoughts. Thank you, sir. Then now, there is a 10 minutes open discussion. Audience can ask any questions.
Yeah, please.
Can you hear me?
This is to both Mr. Ravi Kumar and Desai. You have presented a bit on the judgment and also the Janardan committee report,
ದಯಮಾಡಿ ಕೂರ್ಬೇಕು.
what has happened in Tamil
ಭ್ರಷ್ಟಾಚಾರ
Nadu.
ನಡೀತಾ ಇದೆ. ದಯಮಾಡಿ. Please.
It would have been better, both of you had thrown some light on the history of reservation, political will and political reservation which has been given. Means caste-based reservation in both in Tamil Nadu and Karnataka. If both of you would have spoken on this, the Karnataka's political will would have been thoroughly exposed, except one or two chief ministers. No one dared to do it. And we should be thankful to the Dravidian political party, which has taken the reservation from 40% to 69%. How this happened after Annadurai? What did Karnataka do? What did MGR do? How he intended to bring criminal, why he was defeated? After that, what did Madam Jayalalitha do? How she led the delegation to center and got it done? At the same time, I was also working as a journalist then. We requested the chief minister of that day in Karnataka, and we spoke to too many of them. We requested them, sir, you should take the Tamil Nadu line. Please bring in legislation, increase the quota of reservation. They did not bother to do it. And Ravi Verma Kumar will be the better person, except one or two chief ministers. No one has done it in Karnataka. They wanted to play it up with the subcaste. And second thing, I will conclude it. And second thing, you should also, you are comparing with Malays. What is happening in Malaysia? Or you will be seeing what is happening in Sri Lanka or Nepal or the scheduled caste where they live in another 13, 14 countries. But why we could not do it? Because of this judiciary, like the diversity politics in public life or politics, it is also there in judiciary. People never intend to get into the deep roots, and they are playing they are just dividing the things. In recent times, and we can see everywhere across the country, the protests are there in 16 states in the country. Out of 31 states, 16 states are on the streets opposing categorization of reservation. You must please throw the light. What is the conspiracy behind it? Why these people are into streets? And why is not that Karnataka, how Karnataka should take this lead? It is both of you should address it.
I think that Sir will be able to answer this better. But since you have touched the Tamil Nadu history and the issues, I would like to highlight only a couple of points before Sir goes in. It is like, see, in Tamil Nadu, it was the first state to have implemented the backward class reservation, first in the country, long back. And based on the commission it did long back in 1971, I guess. And afterwards, it was the first state also have compartmentalized, they categorized the backward class and offered most backward class reservation, 20% out of the 50%. So it was about roughly 50-51% for backward class, of which about 20% reserved for the most backward class, like 1 year and several other 20 communities there. So it is why it happened in Tamil Nadu always, and why it did not happen in other states. That is your question. The question is, right from the birth of Tamil Nadu onwards, the social scene, I have to go back before the independence, the Justice Party. At the instance of the Justice Party in 1921, first ever in Madras Presidency, the reservation was implemented, whether it was full or not, 1921. And at that time, Sir has also spoken in his statement that in Mysore, it was also implemented. So, it was the will of the people, compulsion of the people, whereas the political parties should heed. And there is a kind of deliberation, social deliberation taking place all around the state. And where the political parties that in governance cannot escape, and they have to bind for it. And that was the thing that I could not see in other states. This is the prime reason, sir. So the political assertion, awareness, and along with the will of the people was the prime reason for the Tamil Nadu to succeed. Say, for instance, they have exceeded the 50% law in reservation, went to 69, and it went to the court, and the court struck down. But it was enacted in the 9th schedule, and it was a political will, and it was the aspiration of Tamil Nadu people. They all are one and the same and fighting for it. So that harmonious, kind of thing between the political sector and the social sector there, because of which they have to go. So all those reservations, if you see in the history, the DMK led by former Kalaignar Karunanidhi, and he was a proponent in making all these sequence of reservations for subcaste, even the subcaste reservation for Arundhati, he did it. I would not doubt about his credentials in giving this. He is trying to divide and rule. No, he had a genuine cause and he was working for it. And even later, recent 7.5% reservation given to government school students in medical admission in the NEET, after the NEET has come. No states have discussed about it. Why? It is because of the political will and awareness of the people did not join in other states, and it was not harmonious. And that was the specialty of the Tamil Nadu, and that's how it happened. And eventually, when the court struck down the 69%, attempted to strike down, then Jayalalitha ensured that at the time that it was enacted in the 9th schedule, and the court cannot now interfere. But the court is waiting for it. The judiciary will be waiting to just, erase it. That might happen in the future, but we should fight for it. But this is the specialty of Tamil Nadu, sir. But from the Karnataka side, Sir will answer your question.
Why Karnataka has not put the reservation above 50% is, I don't know whether you are aware of this. When Birappa Moili was the chief minister, he increased reservation to 73%. And that was taken to the Supreme Court on 9/9/94. That order was stayed, as a result of which it was put back on 50%. Since our act was not put in the 9th schedule, the court could interfere with that, whereas in the case of Tamil Nadu, because they have better political clout over Delhi, 38 MPs. We have only 28 and a divided house. So we were not successful in putting it in the 9th schedule. And in the meanwhile, Moili government also fell, and there was a change in government, which did not pursue the matter further. So that is where we are. And we had even gone above the Tamil Nadu 69% quota to 73%. This was enacted in the year 1993, but it was stayed by the Supreme Court on 9/9/94. And they said, where is the data? So in order to collect that data, Categorisation committee was constituted, commission was given the task. And there was some delay in collecting the data. And by the time the data was collected, it was not presented to the government. Categorisation commission did not present a report at all. So now I believe it is presented by the Jayaprakash Shinde Commission. Hope to see the light of it. If we are able to support 73% with empirical data, sure, we will also be a very progressive state so far as the quantum of reservation is concerned. I'm sure the data now collected and present it to the government, we'll salute it. Thank you.
Sir, I have a question, and like, thank you for enlightening speech, Talaiva. I want to thank you. It's very clear that Tamil Nadu has got more political will and they are able to lead to it. Karnataka, of course, Professor knows it. Dammilla antaru. Adu nija kuda. But I have an issue. Practically, see, about me, sir, myself, I am a professor, Jagannatha, retired from ISRO. My children asked me a question. We don't want reservation. Because one is a surgeon, another is an architect, another is a space scientist. What I want to say is, children are slowly understanding why this stigma on us. Please do consider this element also. When we have enabling the community to live through, let's say, way out. If it could be a good answer, not for all. To kindly deliberate on another issue, as Honorable Kharge has said it. Our first agenda should be fill up the backlog. Then you talk. Keeping the backlog a big gap, talking about reservation is nonsense. Thank you very much.
ಸರ್ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ತಮಿಳುನಾಡಿನ ಮಧುರೈ ಡಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ಟ್ ಸಂದೇಯೂರು ಗ್ರಾಮದಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಗೋಡೆ ಇದೆ. ಆ ಗೋಡೆ ಏನು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಕಾಮರಾಜ್ ನಾಡ ಮುಖ್ಯಮಂತ್ರಿ ಆಗಿದ್ದಾಗ ಅರುಂಧತಿಯ ಮತ್ತೆ ಪಲೆಯನ್ ಇಬ್ಬರಿಗೂ ಒಂದೇ ಟೈಮ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದಷ್ಟು ಜಮೀನುಗಳು ಒಂದಷ್ಟು ಮನೆಗಳು ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಕ್ರಮೇಣ ಪಲೆಯನ್ ಅವರು ಅರುಂಧತಿಯರಿಂದ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಮೈಲಿಗೆ ಆಗ್ತದೆ, ನಮ್ಗೆ ಮುಟ್ಟ ಆಗ್ತದೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಒಂದ್ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಗೋಡೆ ಕಟ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಡ್ತಾರೆ. ನಾವು ಬಂದ್ರೆ ಅದೆಂತದಪ್ಪ ಮೈಲಿಗೆ ಆಯ್ತದೆ, ನಾವ್ ಬೇರೆನಾ ನೀವು ಬೇರೆನಾ ಅಂತ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಾಗ ಅದಕ್ಕೊಂದು ಕೊಡೆ ಆಯ್ತದೆ. ಆ ಗೋಡೆನ ಒಡೆದಾಕಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು ಕೊಲೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅದು ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಗೋಡೆ ಇದೆ, ಅದು ಜನರಲ್ ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಟಿ ಮತ್ತೆ SC ನಡುವೆ. ಈ ಗೋಡೆ ಇನ್ನೂ ಹಾಗೆ ನಿಂತಿದೆ. ರಾಜಕಾಣಿಯಮ್ಮನ ಹೆಸರು ನೆಪ. ಇದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಬೆಸ್ಟ್ ಉದಾಹರಣೆ ಬೇಕಿಲ್ಲ ಅಲ್ವಾ ಸೋಷಿಯಲ್ ಇದಕ್ಕೆ? ಪ್ಲೀಸ್ ರಿಪ್ಲೈ. ಇದು ಇಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ರಿಲೇಟೆಡ್.
It's really a good question. I think all of you please take note of it. It's really a very good question. There is a wall between Swalpa I could understand, but 99. No, I have understood. So, yeah, so he said he is highlighting the issue near Madurai district, that there was a wall between the Paraya community and the Arindhatiya community. It's a caste discrimination and untouchability. It's a symptom of untouchability. There is no doubt about it. But that is why in my speech I said the Janardhan committee should have investigated scientifically, using all data available scientifically, to prove that it is widespread or not. That is number one. Because there are incidents. Recent incident, I think 2-3 months back. A Paraya community, a Paraya or some other Palgar community, and the Devendra Gulavella, the Palgar community had killed somebody from Arindhatiya community. There are incidents, but these incidents, these untouchabilities are widespread among these subcaste in Tamil Nadu or not, among the subcaste between the Arindhatiya and the Paraya or not. There is no study. That is why, based on a rare or incidents,
We can hear.
yeah. So based on the incidents here and there, let us not conclude now. But that's why I spoke in my speech that if there is an untouchability proven widespread between these communities, that it must be addressed as a caste segregation, as a different heterogeneous caste. And there must be exclusive provisions, reservations, all assistance, social measures should be there. So that must be there. So, but there is no study widespread. That's what we are asking. You do the caste survey, as Sir has said. You do the caste survey overall. everything will be clear. Then we will designate the pariah is the Brahmin of scheduled caste. We declare that. If that report comes out and prove, there is no doubt, and we are for social justice, we are for. That is the point.
Before 3% reservation, preferential reservation, how was the percentage of education, particularly engineering and medical? Arundhatiya entry and non-Arundhatiya entry.
It was the non-Arundhatiya had a higher proportion, higher representation in many cases. Arundhatiya less. Before the reservation, it was very much studied by Janardhan committee.
Yes.
On that account, he studied well. There is no doubt about it. But what I am linking to is whether it is because of the internal caste discrimination or not. Because if there is any inaccessibility to any privileges or opportunities, it is because of the caste discrimination in this country, as far as India is concerned. And if it is because of the internal caste discrimination, then there is no question that 3%, even 5% or 6% reservation is definitely. But if it is not, then we have to study that. That's why we need a caste-based study in all states, both Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, every state should study that. Only then we can make up our mind.
ಸರ್ ಕೇಶವಾನಂದ ಭಾರತಿ ಕೇಸಲ್ಲಿ ಸುಪ್ರೀಂ ಕೋರ್ಟ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಕೇಶವಾನಂದ ಭಾರತಿ ಕೇಸಲ್ಲಿ ಸುಪ್ರೀಂ ಕೋರ್ಟ್ ಬೇಸಿಕ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿ ಕಾನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಪಟ್ಟಿ ಮಾಡಿದೆ. ಆದ್ರೆ ಮೊನ್ನೆ 24ನೇ ತಾರೀಕು ಸುಪ್ರೀಂ ಕೋರ್ಟ್ ಏನು ಆದೇಶ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದೆ ಅದು ದಲಿತರ ಮರಣ ಶಾಸನ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ತಪ್ಪಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಯಾಕಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಸುಪ್ರೀಂ ಕೋರ್ಟ್ ಹಿಂದೆ ಕೇಶವಾನಂದ ಭಾರತಿ ಕೇಸಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಿದ ಆದೇಶವನ್ನ ಈ ಪ್ರಸಕ್ತ ಸುಪ್ರೀಂ ಕೋರ್ಟ್ 24 ಜಡ್ಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ವ್ಯತಿರಿಕ್ತವಾಗಿ ಜಡ್ಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದೆ. ಇದು ದಲಿತರಿಗೆ ಮಾಡಿದ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಅನ್ಯಾಯ ಅಲ್ವೇ?
ನಾನೇ ಹೇಳಿದ್ನಲ್ಲ, ಕ್ರಿಮಿನಲ್ ಹೇಳ್ಬಾರ್ದಿತ್ತು ಸುಪ್ರೀಂ ಕೋರ್ಟ್ ಅಂತ. I agree. That amounts to great injustice to children. I agree. Yeah.
ದಲಿತ ಜಡ್ಜಿಗಳಿದ್ರು ಅವ್ರೆಲ್ಲರೂ ಮೇಲ್ಜಾತಿ ಜಡ್ಜಿಗಳನ್ನ ಪ್ಲೀಸ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಪಾಪ್ಯುಲರ್ ಆಗೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಈ ತರ ಫೋಬಿಯಾ ಬಂತಾವ್ರಿಗೆ ಅಂತ.
No comments. ಹೇಳಿ. ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ಒಂದು ಮನವಿ, ಒಬ್ಬರಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಮಾತ್ರ. ಹೇಳಿ. Thank you for enlightening about Janardhan committee report. It is really well studied and it's well knowledge. I have a question. So recently you answered to previous question. That is the issues happening here and there. So there is my question is that so the Arundhatiya communities settle in every village in Tamil Nadu, the most part of village in the north and south. So the discrimination is happening every village. I agree the study should be happening by the government, both governments, it's fine. So there is a case study in the judgment itself quoted by the judges that is done by Ravichandra. So in Categorisation in Talakotchi district. So why don't you have some light on that case study? Why don't you take it as a source of the initial discrimination is happening? Then recent the wall is happened there. And recent, as yourself you agree that there is a murder is happening in between less and the others. So why don't you show some light on that? And why don't you speak favor for these things? Thank you, sir.
So even Janardhan committee, if you look at, most of the observations made in Janardhan committees are based on private studies only. Private studies, you look at that, 90% are private studies. And beyond that, they have interacted with the affected communities and different stakeholders and took note of it. So you could quote, you have quoted, there are even loosely, there are many independent studies that shows that there is a kind of discrimination among the subcaste. But unless there is a widespread, authenticated, holistic investigation commissioned by the government, thorough, we cannot come to a conclusion because we are not sure on what methodological perspectives they have collected the data and what are the limitations of the data. We do not know. Unless there is a thorough caste-based census taken by every state government, like Bihar, they have done it, but that also is not with respect to holistically what we are talking about. But there must be a complete study based on, say, for instance, Sir has mentioned 9 criteria based on which the depression of the community was designated, was identified. And that 9 factors are still applicable to designate them as scheduled caste or not. If not, then we have to identify more or less omissions and additions. And based on those criteria, we have to collect the data and then completely study thoroughly all those things. Because why I'm talking about is, say, if you take the Arithadiya community in Tamil Nadu, they are facing 2-faceted discrimination. One is by the upper caste Hindus, another by the same subcaste. See, that must be studied. And that's why I said that the intensity of the discrimination among the scheduled caste is same as the untouchability happening between the scheduled caste and other caste or not. Who has studied that? Say, even the Janardhan committee had simply concluded that Arindhati whether the scheduled caste are talking about it or not. They are not. They are talking about the untouchability fostered on them by the upper caste Hindus. And they are not talking among themselves. Why? It is the caste system. It is the philosophy of the caste. It is the nature of the caste system that we have to fight against on one hand. And on the other hand, these are all superficial symptomatic effects. The representation in jobs and employment and education are just symptoms that can be overcome over a period of time. But the fundamental thing is why the caste has come down and segregated the subcaste among the scheduled caste. That is the question. And that must be answered, and it is a bigger pattern, sir, bigger picture that has to be, discussed in a wider level in the social system. Thank you, sir.
For the benefit of students,
ಉತ್ತರ ಸಮಯ ಆಗಿದೆ.
for the benefit of students, I may add one information to what Professor Jason said. One
ಕೊನೆಯದಾಗಿ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ಅವಕಾಶ ಇದೆ, ಸಮಯ ಆಗಿದೆ.
ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಳ್ತೀರಾ? ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ, ಕೂತ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಒಂದು ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ತಗೊಳ್ಬೇಕು. ಕೂತ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ ಪರವಾಗಿಲ್ಲ. Only 2 commissions in the country have conducted foolproof survey using the correct methodology and on the basis of scientific criteria. The first one is Kaunur Commission in Karnataka, and the second one is Ambashankar Commission in Tamil Nadu. They collected 100% data, door-to-door survey. Kaunur Commission did only a sample survey, but that was also scientifically done on a foolproof methodology. Therefore, there are no problems. But otherwise, no commission has collected door-to-door survey information, and that is the need of the hour. Unfortunately, Supreme Court, I have myself made several applications to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court has not passed any orders on my application to direct a caste survey or a caste till this day. One last question, Professor Upapati. Professor Upapati, ಕೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದೆ. Please.
Not left and right. It's very.
Professor Upapati.
Let me one.
I will take your question as well. Please take your seat. Yeah. Professor Upapati.
Last question.
2 devils of Indian society. One is social discrimination and social inequality. There are 2 devils of Indian society. One is social discrimination, social inequality. Another is academic discrimination and academic inequality. I feel, shall we not go to address them together? Because the caste system, social discrimination, they have been there for such a long time, they are so complicated, you can neither abolish them nor solve all the complications connected with it. So in this context, my humble suggestion for consideration of this August Assembly is this: we must have a list of groups of people based on academic discrimination, first one, or social discrimination first. What are the communities, bottommost and uppermost? This kind of a list. Second list is academic discrimination, academic inequality. And then, you see, what is required for a good society, for a just society is Antyodaya. The weakest must be enabled to develop. And therefore, I feel that this reservation issue is so complicated, we must look at it in a new way. That is, those who are backward, both socially and economically. First, those who are socially and economically backward, they must be the topmost to get the reservation percentages. And like that, if we go on doing and eliminate those who get into economically higher level, I think automatically the problem has to be solved that way. We have to look at it in a new way rather than trying to solve it in the old way. Thank you.
Understanding this present problem,
within ourselves is very narrow-minded, I feel, because of following reason. This problem, present problem, taken place because of following reasons. Say, economically weaker section reservation. The name is so well nominated, means named in such a way that if anybody listens economically weaker section, they think it is meant for backward. No, it is a Brahmin reservation for a Brahmin, 10% given for a 3% reservation. This is the one of the impact for the present problem. The second thing is the impact of Bangladesh. There is a protest going on in neighboring country, again with respect to the reservation. They given family freedom fighter family 30% reservation. They are taking a protest. It's an impact of that. Instead of we protesting against the economically weaker section, the judiciary mind proactively to suppress, to avoid influence from the Bangladesh, they made this judgment. One thing, and also there is no reservation in Supreme Court, as Ravi Verma sir may know, and also there is no reservation in Army. For your information, we are very narrow-minded. The third thing, whenever there is a question of reservation, when an arrow stabs us, it is not because of our people, it is because of Brahminic doctors. It takes a case from Champai, Dorairajan case. He's a doctor, and Champakam Dorairajan. Doctors are filing a case and take a economically weaker section. January 9th, it passed in Lok Sabha. On January 13th, it passed in Rajya Sabha. On January 14th of 2020, it came as Act. Very 4 days. We need many generation to get reservation. They are taken only in 4 days. One thing, and moreover, in writings and speeches, Baba sir has specifically stated the first community to take reservation in India is none other than Brahmins, because after 1857 rebellion, suppress the rebellion, British people have allotted 1 lakh rupees for the education of the people. It is very minimal amount. When they started to whom to allot that, they made a certain criteria for selecting the community to incur that expenditure. One thing is they have to be very free, means ಸೋಂಬೇರಿಗಳಾಗಿರ್ಬೇಕು. ಆ 1 ಲಕ್ಷನ ವಿನಿಯೋಗ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಸೋಂಬೇರಿಗಳಾಗಬೇಕಾಗಿತ್ತು. ಯಾರು ಸೋಂಬೇರಿಗಳಾಗಿದ್ದು ಅಟ್ ದಟ್ ಮೊಮೆಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬ್ರಾಹ್ಮಿನ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಮೋರ್ ಇನ್ಫ್ಲೂಯೆನ್ಷಿಯಲ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೇಕಾಗಿತ್ತು. ಬ್ರಾಹ್ಮಿನ್ಸ್ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಅವರು ಎಜುಕೇಶನ್ಗೆ ಬ್ರಾಹ್ಮಿನ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಎಜುಕೇಶನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ the first people who get a reservation in education is Brahmins. And you said I really appreciate the views of Mr. Jawahar Nissan sir. We need empirical data. I really appreciate that, because we are homogeneous in the sense under the article the people have encountered the untouchability. To establish equality under Article 14, they come up with a education reservation under 15 class 4 and 16 class 6, 16 class 5. They given a reservation in government. Just a minute. It's a very complicated one, because yes sir, I conclude. The question is classification or creamy layer is disastrous for the community without any empirical data. I really appreciate your concern, sir. Thank you. There are many points, but due to time concern, I am restricting. Thank you.
ಓಕೆ, ಏನಾದ್ರೂ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗಳಿದ್ರೆ ಇನ್ನೂ 2 ಸೆಷನ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗಳನ್ನ ಅಲ್ಲೂ ಸಹ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಪಡಿಸಬಹುದು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಆಗ್ಲೇ ಊಟದ ಸಮಯ ಆಗಿರೋ ಕಾರಣ ಈ ಸೆಷನ್ ನಾವು ಈಗ ಮುಕ್ತಾಯಗೊಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ. 30 ನಿಮಿಷಗಳ ಕಾಲ ಊಟದ ಸಮಯ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಈಗಾಗಲೇ 2 ಗಂಟೆ ಆಗಿದೆ. 2:30ಗೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ಗೋಷ್ಠಿ ಪ್ರಾರಂಭವಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ತಾವೆಲ್ಲರೂ ಸಹ ಸಭಿಕರು ಈ